Good evening. It is 22nd of July at 7:31 PM. And I'd like to call to order the July meeting of the Norwalk County Council. If you'll please stand and join me in pledging allegiance to our nation's flag. And if you'll remain standing for a moment after that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As you probably know, Cheryl Telesco from Telesco Services has passed away suddenly in the past week. She has been taking the minutes for the council for many, many years and doing a phenomenal job. And it's a sad thing that she's passed away. And I'd like to ask for a moment of silence in her memory. Thank you. Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Mr. Burnett. Mr. Goldstein,
Here.
Mr. Lopez,
Here.
Ms. Najolski Eichner,
Present.
Ms. Smith. Here. Ms. Ayers. Present. Mr. Seed,
Present.
Mr. Wiggins,
Here.
Ms. Young. Here. Ms. Edie. Here. Ms. Winterstrand,
Here.
Ms. Dunn. Mr. Sutton,
Present.
Mr. Frere,
Here.
Ms. Shanahan, Mr. Burnett, Ms. Dunn, Ms. Shanahan. We have 12 in attendance. We have a quorum.
Thank you. 12 in attendance. Next item on the agenda, acceptance of the minutes of the special meeting of July 1, 2025. Do I have a motion? Yeah, Ms. Ayers. Are there any corrections, deletions, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes for July 1st special meeting as submitted? Opposed? Abstentions? Mr. Goldstein and Ms. Young are abstaining. Motion carries. Next, we have approval of the acceptance of the minutes of the special meeting of July 8th, 2025. Do I have a motion? Ms. Smith? Are there any corrections, deletions, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as submitted? Opposed? Abstentions? Ms. Young abstains. Mr. Wiggins, I vote yes. Okay. Next item is the acceptance of the regular minutes of the minutes of the regular meeting on July 8th, 2025. Do I have a motion? Ms. Edie. Are there any corrections, deletions, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor of the minutes as submitted? Opposed? And abstentions? Ms. Young is abstaining. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public participation. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any item that is on the agenda. And we ask that you limit your comment to 3 minutes. James, well, there's nobody in the audience except Mr. Bednick. I'm not sure he wants to speak, but is there anybody online on Zoom that wishes to speak?
Diane Lorchilla.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Common Council, President Smith. For the record, my name is Diane Lorachella, 21 Little Fox Lane. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Can
can.
anyone? Okay, thank you. Just checking. For the record, I just wanted to comment mostly on the charter that revisions that you'll be discussing later. But first, I wanted to enter into the record. I would be remiss in my longtime opposition to expansion of fracked or natural gas pipelines. So I'm in opposition to item C1 and C2 under Recreation and Parks. My comments were made during the committee hearing. I feel that it is odd that the words gas facility or have been left out of these items. It wasn't the case in committee. So I'll just leave it for that because I will be looking into this. My main suggestions have to do with the charter. First of all, I believe that it is quite important that we consider expanding the number on the council. I do not agree with council president and others that feel that 15 members of the council is a sweet spot or the right amount for a city of our size with all of the complications and responsibilities. But I have read numbers on your items, number 3 through 6, where you discuss retaining number 5 is retaining 2 council members per district, and you talk about the number of districts and the standard of 15 council members. I say no, you really need to go back to the drawing board. I do feel in number 7, number 6, you do look at large and the minority party representation. Absolutely do not retain 15 seats if you decide to go with number 6. I do feel instead, I offer this, add 1 at-large council member seat per district, which is the way you traditionally offer or nominate at-large council members, and then add 2 more for your MPR or minority party representation. That would bring you up to 22 members of this council. I wanted to say this because it seems like some of you are afraid of having more opinions that come before you in caucus and beyond. And I think the better of you will say that we need more time to do our due diligence because it's not getting done. Many of you do not do your own due diligence. Many of you do, but many of you
30 seconds
don't.
remaining.
Lastly, I just wanted to say that anything that has to do towards the end in articles in items 10, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 that extends or increases the power of the council should be approved, especially when it comes to extending the Board of Estimate tight budget making schedule. It is just too tight for the complications that we run into in these days. So I thank you for letting me speak. I wanted to say also, make sure in your question wording that it is clear and accessible, and we don't have double negatives, which we've had in the past. It has to be very clear so that the public can analyze it and vote quickly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Lauricella. We have somebody just entered the council chambers. Mr. Levin, are you wishing to address the council? James, is there anybody else online?
There is not, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Now that brings us to resignations and appointments. They're all reappointments. First one is Judson Ailey for the Parking Authority. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Goldstein?
Thank you. Judson Ailey is, as you can see, a nominee for reappointment to the Parking Authority. He is a longstanding member of the community. A number of us have met him on a number of occasions. He's very involved in everything from parking to the Bike Walk Commission and sort of biking and walking in general. He is a graduate of Southern Connecticut State University who has done volunteer and community work, including the Village Creek Community Architectural Review Board, and has done work for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Task Force. And he has someone who works at RJ Ailey, building contractor. Judson is someone a number of us have met on a number of occasions. He's done great work on the Parking Authority, and I think he would more than earn another term on the Parking Authority.
Thank you. Any further comments or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Please let the notes show that Mr. Burnett has arrived at 7:35 p.m. We now have a reappointment of Gary Leeds for Oak Hills Park Authority. Do I have a motion? Mr. Freya.
I'd like to move the appointment of Mr. Leeds and say a few words. Mr. Leeds is a graduate of Syracuse University. He has a bachelor in accounting. He is also a CPA and worked for some major corporations throughout his career. In the last 30 years since he's lived in Norwalk, he's served on the visiting nurse and hospice board, and more recently is a volunteer with the Rowayton Gardeners and has been served a few years on the Oak Hills Golf Authority as well. Since the pandemic, I might add. Just a word about the Golf Authority has done a phenomenal job in the last few years, not only with the golf course, but improving that park. The tennis courts have much improved. It's got a lovely, well-maintained nature walk. And the golf course itself is one of the finest golf courses in all of Fairfield County. Mr. Leeds has been has played an active role in that Golf Authority and achieving the goals that they have achieved in the last couple of years. So I feel really excited about having him continue on the golf. Thank you.
Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried unanimously. We now have reappointment of Manuel Salgado for the Bike Walk Commission. Do I have a motion? Mr. Goldstein.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the nomination of Manuel Salgado for reappointment to the Bike Walk Commission. I have met Mr. Salgado on a number of occasions, some of which on my bike. He is smart, energetic. He works at family centers as an outreach clinician and a VOCA case manager, where he does really great work, providing case management and social and emotional support, as well as connecting victims with crime to local community resources. I've known Mr. Salgado to be someone who is fun and smart, and along with many members of the Bike Walk Commission, really energetic about making our streets more accessible and safer. He has done a great job on the Bike Walk Commission already, along with the balance of the committee members, and he no doubt earns another term and will serve us all.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Any further comments or discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have 3 reappointments to the Arts and Cultural Commission. I'd like to take them all together unless there's an objection. So do we have a motion? Ms. Smith.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I would like to move the reappointments of Robert Abriola, Melissa Matusco, and Janae Sylvester to the Arts Commission. Bob Abriolo has been on the Arts Commission for quite some time. He is by trade an account director and business leader in marketing and creative, currently working at HH Global. However, he is also an artist and he brings a keen eye to the Arts Commission. Melissa Matusco, an events and sales manager expert, also very valued on the Arts Commission. And Janae Sylvester is a director of marketing strategy at Nielsen. So she too brings a great perspective and a great, just really rounding out the Arts Commission, Arts and Cultural Commission. So I support the reappointments of all 3.
Okay, are there any further discussion? Comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the 3 reappointments? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Brings us to my remarks. We've already had a moment of silence for Cheryl. Very sad situation. Last week, Chief Lamont Daniels and I congratulated 18 of the city's 25 mini grant program nonprofit awardees. We gave out $146,000 to some of these nonprofits to help them. It's a program that started quite some time ago, and I want to again thank Anna Vivian for starting that program, recommending that program, and overseeing that program. She's done a remarkable job, and I know there's a lot of people that are benefiting from that because we have a lot of our nonprofits that serve so many people in the city, and it's the right thing for us to do. We're also pleased to share that our first Sono Saturday Market in June, organized by my Economic and Community Development team, was really very well attended. Resulted in nearly double the number of local vendors for our upcoming Sono Market this Saturday. So it's this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It'll be on 50 Washington Street. The road will be closed off. It will be from the road will be closed off to vehicles from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. In addition to checking out all the fantastic vendors, attendees will have the opportunity to enjoy live music, a toddler play area, lawn games, and relax on picnic blankets provided by the city throughout the lawn. So we're also encouraging people to head to one of our fantastic local restaurants. We want to bring people into our community, downtown areas, so that they can see what we have to offer, the restaurants, the shops, and so forth. And this is a great way of doing it. Each year during July, the city of Norwalk invites the community to help create the anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act by declaring July ADA Awareness Month. This year's event will take place at the City Hall atrium Thursday at 9:30, where nonprofit leaders in the disability community and Norwalk's ADA Transition Committee will join us. You know, a lot of times communities, and we don't tend to think of people with disabilities and have challenges of not navigating either stairs or sidewalks or just difficulties that we don't understand because thankfully we don't have those disabilities. So it's always good for us to look at what we can do to facilitate that. We have an ADA coordinator who's doing a fantastic job and doing some of the things that need to be done in order to bring our city ADA compliant. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. If you haven't been there, I would recommend you take a look. Wegmans, the official opening at 675 Connecticut Avenue. I know a lot of people are very excited that Wegmans decided to open their first store in the state of Connecticut in the city of Norwalk. If you haven't seen what a Wegmans looks like, I think you'll be impressed. It's quite a place. They've been a fantastic partner to the city this past year, attending many of our community events and working with local nonprofits. So they're stepping right up, as we hope businesses do with the private and public sector participation. They've also prioritized hiring Norwalk residents to their brand new store and have hired a total of more than 500 employees. So that's great for our economy. Tomorrow evening, we're going to be hosting another one of our Wednesday evening summer concerts series at the Capastra Beach, starting at 7 p.m. This week, it's free live Latin funk and salsa. So if you want to do the merengue, if you want to do the bachata, if you want to do the salsa, you come on out, you'll have plenty of opportunity. Last time that we had the Latin music festival there, you couldn't keep the people off the dance floor or the dance lawn. Also coming up, just some exciting things coming up in Norwalk to show what we're all about here. A lot of exciting things. Summertime is a great time in the city of Norwalk. This Thursday night, we have started the St. Anne's Festival, runs for the weekend. Coming up, we have the Sono Arts Festival, the first weekend in August. Then we have the Oyster Festival and the boat show. So if you complain that there's nothing to do in Norwalk, I'm not going to listen. But we have a lot going on, and I encourage people to take advantage of all those. And with that, I will turn it over to the council president.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, I will turn the consent calendar over to Councilmember Doug Sutton.
Thank you, Madam Council President. First item 7A, Finance and Claims Committee. Item 1, narrative on tax collections dated July 2025. Item 2, monthly tax collectors reports dated June 2025. Claims Committee report dated July 2025. Item 3. Item 4, authorize Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute a 5-year, 60-month agreement with CBS for library printers. The annual amount not to exceed $7,032, or total not to exceed $35,160. Will come from Norwalk Public Library account number noted, machinery/equipment rental. Item 5A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Magic School, Inc. for AI tools with an amount not to exceed $25,800. Account number noted. Item 5B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to OpenAI LLC for AI tools for an amount not to exceed $34,323.29. Account number noted. Item 6, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Power School Group LLC for student information system software for an amount not to exceed $232,511.50. Account number noted. Item 7, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Environmental Systems Research Institute, Inc., ESR, in the amount of $60,300 annually for 3 years, not to exceed a total of $180,900 for the Geographic Information System platform. Account number noted. Item 8, authorize the allocation of an additional $320,000 in special capital appropriations fund for the Merrimack School HVAC improvement project. Account number noted. Item 8B, authorize the budget reduction in the amount of $320,000, the city share from the Brookside School HVAC improvement project. Account number noted. Item number 9, authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rilling to enter into a 5-year contract with LightPath Technology, Inc. as secondary internet service provider. Annual amount not to exceed $26,400, but for the total not to exceed $132,000. Account number noted. Ordinance Committee. Item 1, approve changes to Chapter 9, Administration, Article 4, Registrar of Voters, Section 9-10. Item B2, approve changes to Chapter 63, Law Department, Section 63-1 through 63-6. Recreation, Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee. Item 1, C1, authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rilling to enter into an easement agreement with Eversource Energy for the purpose of constructing, operating, maintaining, repairing, replacing a regulator facility station and related appendices on the southeast side of the land owned by the city of Norwalk at Strawberry Hill, tax assessor map, block, and lot number noted, near where it abuts Williams Street. Item C2, authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rilling to enter into an easement agreement with Eversource Energy for the purpose of constructing, operating, maintaining, repairing, and replacing a regulator facility station and related appendices on west side of land owned by the city of Norwalk at 15 Astor Beach Road, number 3, Norwalk, Connecticut. Tax assessor map, block, and lot 03-76-01-03, near where it abuts Astor Beach Road. Item C3, authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rilling to enter an agreement with the use of Matthews Park and immediate surrounding grounds by the Norwalk Conservatory for their Broadway in the Park to be held on Saturday, August 16th, Saturday, August 23rd, Saturday, August 30th, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Set up on Friday, August 15th, with tear down on Sunday, August 31st, approximately 400 people. Item 4. Items C4, authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rilling to enter an agreement for the use of Matthews Park and immediate surrounding grounds by Tyson Tours for their Back Together Again with Family and Friends to be held on Sunday, August 17th, from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Set up time by 11:30 a.m. with the tear down by 8:30 p.m. Approximately 300 people. Item 5, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter an agreement with the use of Nathaniel Ely School Field and immediate surroundings, the grounds by Project 9 Foundation for their Community Fund Day to be held on Saturday, August 16th, 2025, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Set up time by 7 a.m. with tear down by 7 p.m. Approximately 75 people. Item number 6, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter an agreement for the use of Washington Street Plaza and immediate surrounding grounds by Gordon Fine Arts for their Sono Arts Festival to be held on Saturday, August 2nd, and Sunday, August 3rd, 2025, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Setup time 6 a.m. Saturday with tear down by 5 p.m. Sunday, approximately 1,000 people. Item 7, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a sole source purchase order for a 2025 John Deere 310 SJ backhoe for an amount not to exceed $137,519 from the account number noted. Item 8, authorize the mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute an agreement with Terry Contracting and Materials, Inc. for project RN P2025-1 Veterans Memorial Park, Marina Docks for a sum not to exceed $4,262. No, 4 million.
There you go.
Yeah, wow. $4,262,706. Base bid only 80% of SHIPP grant. Item 9, authorize the chief of operations and public works to execute orders on contract with Terry Contracting and Materials, Inc. for project RNP 2025-1 Veteran Memorial Park, Marina Docks for a sum not to exceed $639,405.90. Account numbers noted. Item D, public safety and general government. Item D1A, authorize the purchasing agent, Sharon Cannon, to execute a purchase order on behalf of Norwalk Police Department to Sullivan's Northwest Hills for the purchase of 8 police package utility vehicles under the state of Connecticut government pricing, contract number 24 PSX 0110 for a total not to exceed $450,014.08. Account number noted. Item 1B, authorize the purchasing agent Sharon Connors to execute a purchase order on behalf of Norwalk Police Department to Fleet Auto Supply under RFP project number 4123 for the uplift of emergency vehicle equipment in 8 police vehicles for a total not to exceed $275,000. Item D2, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements and other documents necessary for the Norwalk Fire Department to enroll its recruits in the Bridgeforge Fire Academy, including an indemnification and hold harmless agreement. Thus reads the consent calendar. Thank you, Madam
Thank you
Chair.
very much for that
Madam
very
President.
fine and very clear reading of the consent calendar, Councilmember Sutton. Very well done. I will call for the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? And that carries unanimously. Thank you. And now moving on to resolutions.
I will,
You, go ahead.
you turn it over to me
Okay,
and I'll turn it
back to
right back to
you.
you.
Back to me.
For the resolution from the common council, I'll turn this back to the council president.
Thank you very much, Mayor. As we are aware, the Charter Revision Commission had its organizational meeting on October 16th of 2024 and had 14 additional meetings. And they conferred their recommendations to us on May 30th, to the Common Council on May 30th of 2025. We have had a number of public workshops and public hearings with opportunities for the public to weigh in. Through that process, we have come with the help of Attorney Steve Mednick with a resolution that we're going to bring forward tonight with some recommendations, some amendments that we would like to have considered. And so I will read the resolution. There are many items on this resolution, many amendments, many of which we do consent to. And so I will read, as I read along, I'll read through what we consent to and then go back to items for discussion and individual votes. So resolutions from the Common Council, item A. Recommendations of the Common Council to the Charter Revision Commission pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 7-191B, dated July 19, 2025. Whereas the Charter Revision Commission hereinafter commission submitted its draft report to the city clerk and town clerk on May 30, 2025, draft report. And whereas the Common Council has conducted a public hearing on the draft report in accordance with Connecticut General Statute, Section 7-191B, and considered and reviewed said draft report. And whereas the Common Council generally accepts the substantial content of the draft report favorably, and whereas pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 7-191C, the Common Council, as the appointing authority of the charter revisions, is authorized to make recommendations to the Commission for changes in the draft report. And whereas the Common Council does have a number of issues in the draft report that should either be deleted or modified. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Norwalk Common Council that the Charter Revision Commission consider the following recommendations and adjustments to its draft report. Item 3, Article 3, Sections 3-3C2, Council Districts, please retain current standard of 15 council members. Item 5, Article 3, 3-4A1, Council Districts, please retain current standard of 2 council members per district. Item 9, Article 7, 7-1H, this is new. Please review language that would require disclosure of applicant names, backgrounds, and credentials for board and commission appointments to the council prior to the appointment. The intent of this proposal is to monitor appointments in order to identify qualified, diverse, and representative appointees in an open environment. The provision should be designed to encourage broader participation by our residents in the appointment process. Applicants should have the ability to request in writing to the city clerk non-disclosure of such data, e.g. name, resume, background information, although such data would subsequently be made public when the applicant is nominated by the mayor. 11, Article 8.4C2, historical provisions pertaining to the comptroller. Please review historical provisions of the comptroller's office derived from the special acts. 12, Article 8.4D4, historical provisions pertaining to the purchasing agent. Please review historical provisions of the purchasing agent derived from the special acts. 13, Article 8.7B2 and 3, functions of the chief and department heads of the Division of Operations and Public Works. Please review historical provisions of the Division of Operations and Public Works derived from the special acts. 17, Chapter 7, 10-6D. Please consider amending the current language in 10-6 as 10-6D and 10-6D to require Board of Estimate hearings and a joint meeting with council on or before April 18th. Item 18, Chapter 7, 10-7A. Please consider changing the BET submission date to the council from April 1 to April 18th. And item 20, Chapter 7, 10-8, please consider changing the final date to May 7th.
That's actually May 14th. Yes.
May 14th, okay, so we amend that to May 14th. Thank you for that correction. Okay. So just to be clear, we are all good, we all consent to those items. Okay. So now we'll go back to item 1, Article 2.2B10, Common Council or Council. Please change the defined term to City Council. I think I can read these two together, right? Okay. Article and number 2, Article 2.2C, use of terms. Please consider the following language to supplement the change to City Council. The change in name of the legislative body of Norwalk from Common Council to City Council shall not affect the validity of the actions, ordinances, or decisions taken by the legislative body under its former name, even if the ordinance has not been amended to reflect the change. All such actions shall remain in full force and effect as actions of the City Council. So this item is on the floor. Is there any discussion? If there is, please raise your hand. If not, I will call for the vote. All in favor of supporting items 1 and 2, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Sutton is opposed. Any others? Okay, that passes. How many do we have? With one nay. Okay. Item D, this item, Councilmember Young and I would like to leave the room and recuse ourselves. And I'll turn it over to Majority Leader Josh Goldstein. And somebody text us. Where do we?
Okay, I want to note for the record that Council President Barbara Smith and Councilmember Darlene Young have now exited the room. Looking at item number 4D, Article 3, 30-3D1 and 2, term of office for mayor, clerk, and common council. Please review with council during conferral phrase. Does anyone have any, anyone like to make any comments on this item? Anyone online? Okay, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor? So the item says term of office for mayor, town clerk, and town clerk, and that we should please review with the council the terms during the conferral phase.
Got it.
So we're not voting for, as you can see in the language here, not for a specific term amount, so years. But it's saying that we want to discuss this with them during the conferral phase.
Okay. Thank you.
Steve, did I interpret that correctly? Okay. Is there any other discussion before we take a vote on this item? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?
Mr. Goldstein, can I
Yes.
just confirm that you were able to record my yes vote?
Yes, Councilmember Najewski, voted yes. The only no vote was from Councilmember Nicole Eady. That's a no, yes. Okay, then this item passes and we can let, Council members Smith and Young back in the room. Take the vote to station. And now that she has returned, I turn it back over to the Council President, Barbara Smith.
Thank you, Councilmember Goldstein. So moving on to item 6, Article 3:4A2, at-large council members, add 2 at-large seats with 2 under MPR, either by expanding to 17 or retaining 15. Discussion? Mr. C.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to speak on it, today, not just as a council member, but somebody who listened to the public, listen to the leaders from all different, political parties, and also, the consensus that we kind of talked about in caucus and other things as a legislative body. I brought forward this amendment, that proposes 2 additional seats, at-large seats for the common council. And it just has a simple, but I think meaningful, rule that no more than 5 members, could come from the same political party. That's it. It's, that's the proposal pretty much. It's not radical. It doesn't guarantee seats to anyone, in the party, and it protects, voter choice. I don't think it takes anything away from those 2 things. I think, in fact, it kind of protects, those same type of rules that we kind of want to go for. I believe that it matters because a lot of us at this table, we talk about diversity and having inclusion. And we say that that's our greatest strength here in Norwalk. And I feel like sometimes to people, it just seems like it's buzzwords. But I feel like we have a chance to like really do something great here. Right now, we don't have any structural safeguards to ensure that voices are heard, from other sides of the aisle. And I believe that this is something that can really introduce a diversity of thought, and not just majority of votes. We heard it loud and clear, from the comments, that came in through the Charter Revision Commission, and people that came here. So I'm just simply asking you guys to not just close the door on the conversation that the public is starting. This is a rule that's the same thing for constables, for our commissions. And I feel it should be no different for this legislative body that passes, budgets and ordinances that help control the city. One thing that I do believe in, because I'm hearing from other sides, like those same political leaders, is that some people saying we've gone too far, and I get some people saying that it's not enough, and that we haven't been able to reach a compromise. But I feel like this is a nice compromise, hearing from everybody, and I feel like that's something that we should be thinking about. This country, we wouldn't have a constitution if we didn't compromise. no matter how controversial or anything, that's how we got to where we are today. And I feel that compromise is really important, and I think that this is what it is. This is what it does. We have some people that say that we should get rid of that large seat and add one more seat to end districts and add it that way, and then add the minority representation. I know we don't have the consensus for that, and that'd be a large seat. I think that we can build consensus around this, and I have reached out to all of you guys to give any recommendation of how we can make this better and improve it. And I think that we have something great here that we could do and present to the city, because this is not something that we're just gonna pass here on the council. It's something that we have to present along with every other recommendation to the people of Norwalk. So what this amendment does is, there's no party that can nominate, or no party can nominate more than five people. Voters still choose the top 7. There's no single party can take all 7, ensuring that it's inclusion and not restricting democracy, because it's still the voters are still choosing the top 7. It doesn't lock in power for anybody, but it creates spaces for diversity and choice. So I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but I think that this is something that we should think about and we should discuss in front of people, because it's something that the people have come to us. And I feel like if we just ignore it and we don't compromise and bring stuff to people, I do think it's a huge risk of people feeling discouraged and that their voice isn't heard, and can cause us to take this whole thing. Because if people come in, they spend their time to come and talk to us as a council, and we don't bring something forward that what they asked us for, no matter who they are. And I just think that we should listen to them, and we should give them the chance to be heard. And I think that this is a way that we create a seat at the table where people could be heard. And I think it's a nice compromise and again, an open-ended conversation. But I think that 1, it creates a seat, it creates seats at the table, and 2, it still ensures that voters have a choice to choose whoever they go. Last election cycle, we had about 12 members that ran for at-large. So there's still, in this scheme, there still be 5 losers. That's not saying that everybody gets to win. Voters still choose who gets elected. And it's the top 7 out of 15 or 20, however many parties we have, the top 7, and the voters still have a choice, but we also are creating a space where people who we might not agree with or might not agree with us, a space for them to come and have a seat at the table and let the voice be heard. So I really think that we owe it to the people to talk about it, and I hope that you guys are just open to this idea, because it's something that I think we should really talk about.
Comments? Mr. Goldstein.
Thank you, Council President Smith. First, I just want to start by commending Councilmember Seed, who I think put together actually a very thoughtful way to look at this issue. This issue has come and been presented to the council on a number of occasions in a number of different ways. I think this was a cogent way of thinking about it. But I am going to be voting against it, and I want to talk a little bit about why. And my main thing when I sort of was really thinking about it, and Councilmember Seed, to your question, like, due to your credit, like, I really had to think about this one. And the reason why I'm not going to support it is because there is a difference between the requirements that we have under state law, which requires that boards and commissions not be all one political party. There has to be political diversity under boards and commissions, because it's not a direct election. It's an appointment by the mayor, and to make sure and ensure that there is both political diversity and diversity of thought, that they does requiring mayors to structure appointments in certain ways, I think is a fair rule and a fair rationale. The difference between, I think, a mayoral appointment and a council election is that the voters make a choice every 2 years. They get to do that. I mean, I think the joke that there's a saying about every 2 years you get to overthrow the government. And the voters get that opportunity every 2 years. Who knows, maybe even longer, depending on how, it shakes out in the proposals that have been made by the Charter Revision Commission. But what gives me pause is the idea that this scheme undermines the decisions that voters have made, or the decisions that voters could make in the future. If voters choose to elect 5 at-large candidates from one political party, that's their choice. And I don't really feel empowered, I mean, and obviously I know you, in the way it's phrased here, it's either retaining 15 or 17. So say we're 17, you did 7 of one party. That's the voter's choice. They get to make that choice collectively by organizing and voting and showing up at the polls. I don't feel it is fair to say in the guise of political diversity that you should then give seats to people who didn't actually win the election. That I find that troubling and actually potentially undermining people's faith that when they vote and there are winners, that those people will work for them and enact the kind of policies that they want, that they voted for. So my feeling is that while I am all for political diversity of thought, while I am all for engaging in the process and hearing from people, I find it hard to do something that will in effect subvert the voters' choices. Look, I mean, we have one member of our council who is not a Democrat, and her legitimacy comes from the fact that she won an election. She has as much right to be here as the rest of us because she did the organizing, she did the work, and she won an election fair and square. And I think that's what anyone should expect of any of us. So for those reasons, I will be voting no on this item.
Thank you. Ms. Nadjelski Eichner.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to really commend Councilmember Seed because quite frankly, he changed my mind on this. I very much hear Councilmember Goldstein's point. I have and remain skeptical of minority party representation for a lot of the reasons that Councilmember Goldstein articulated. But I also hear Councilmember Seed's very cogent point that truly the only feedback we have gotten on this charter, with the exception of one lovely letter today in support of some of the budget stuff we'll be talking about later, has been about minority party representation. And I do take seriously the fact that an issue that rises to voters' attention to that extent is one that we should consider and is worth considering. And I thought that Councilmember Seed's solution was quite elegant. It really does make a meaningful change while also ensuring that the majority of the voters will always have the majority of the votes. And I think that that is an important point here. And that really is a sort of fundamental of the of any democracy. And so, and I also take his point that as a compromise that seems to be leaving everyone dissatisfied is often the marker of a good compromise. I think it gives a little bit to everyone. And so for those reasons, I will be a yes vote on this amendment.
Thank you. Ms. Wennerstrand.
Thank you, President Smith. And I want to also join in the chorus of thanking Councilmember Seed for the very thoughtful and very well articulated, and now has been articulated multiple times. I think it really does reflect the feedback that we've been getting. I think it really addresses in a very elegant manner the question that's been, the concerns that have been brought to us. I think it's going to, I agree we have a winner take all system right now, and that does reflect the will of voters, but I think that this would require us to kind of, get used to like a new paradigm shift or sort of a norm. And I think that since we're working on charter revision, we're really talking about the future. And we are really sort of talking about how the pendulum can swing politically. And I think that having this enshrined in our charter would go a long way towards reflecting that we're listening to constituents and we're thinking about all kinds of political eventualities in the future. So I will be a yes, and I want to thank Councilmember Seed again.
Thank you. Ms. Shanahan.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I want to attach myself to Mr. Goldstein's comments. I will be voting against this. One of the things that I think is not okay about the way this is particularly written is that, in fact, you could have a number of so-called minority representatives when at the district level, and that wouldn't be reflected as the way Mr. Seed has written this at large. So while I would have been interested in perhaps considering this, I think that it actually doesn't completely tie together and knit together the possibility. And it could have an unintended consequence where you're giving minority seats at the at-large section, but you actually have those same minority seats being actually the majority at the district level. So I don't think that the language is right yet. So I would be voting against that because it hasn't been corrected.
Mr. Seed.
There's a couple of points. First, I think there is, let me just have it in my minute. So there is, like, it's not just commissions and boards that this is done. It's Connecticut General Statute, section 9-167A. I quoted this before. It puts it in there that, like, we would have to, if we didn't have the district set up, we would have minority representation by general statute from the state of Connecticut, that we would have it here in Norwalk. And we do have the districts. And yes, that is the idea behind it, is that you have the diversity in thought. But if we're so against like restricting the vote of the people, then we will be lobbying to change that. But I don't think that we would, because in our sister in towns, if we lobby to change that, there would be nobody from our party representing in towns like Wilton or New Canaan, because the majority would be the other side. And I think that's why it's important, because it ensures that there's a seat at the table for everybody. It doesn't undermine, in the way that this is written, if we were, when I think about it, if we were to do like the districts and maneuver it that way, then we'll be playing with the will of the people. And I think that with this, there's still, what defines a winner, or somebody who won an election, is that there's a loser. There's still gonna be a loser, in the election. This is the past election. This election coming up, we're probably gonna have 12 to 15 people running for the at-large seats. And if we had this part in there, there's still gonna be 8 to 5 losers. So there's people that are gonna legitimately win the election. And I think that it's not radical, and I understand people's concerns, but this is something that's done all over the state of Connecticut. And we don't lobby for it, because in the towns that are taking advantage of the minority representation are from our party. And I think that we have to remove us thinking politically in our party, and just think having diversity of thought and having a town be represented on these boards that are making these huge decisions to run the city, and to give the people who voted 45% to 10% a voice at the table and say, hey, you matter too, and we listen to you. And especially when you have this much people coming to you, I don't see how we don't do something when that's been 99% of the public input asking for it, no matter who it is, whether it's the same people that show up all the time, people we don't agree with. I just think that it's important. I think all of you guys were really considering it, because I think it's something that we owe to the people in Norwalk, because they showed up for it.
Other comments? Mr. Wiggins?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would have to say, Jane, you kind of, I was against this at first, because I just think, this table is not big enough. 2 more people, not literally, that's a joke. But I do think that, what Heather brings to the council is extremely important. And I think we need more of that. So I will be voting yes on that today.
Anyone else? I mean, I have to say, I have been absolutely torn about this for myself. I've generally had the feeling that the electors, they have that responsibility to elect us, to elect their representatives, and that's democracy. On the other hand, you really make an impassioned plea, and I think of my experiences here on the council, which I've spoken about, with you know, I agree, you know, Ms. Dunn is a great voice. And my own experiences with Doug Hempstead when he was on the council, you know, he and I didn't agree on, you know, matters, just same as it is now. We have consent calendar, we largely agree on things, but, you know, he really taught me a lot. So I've been, yes, no, yes, no. So I think in the end, where I've come down is that, you know, oftentimes this is used as negotiating, you know, if we're going to give minority representation, it might be used as a negotiating chip. And so where I've come down is that, you know, I think it's worth it to send this to the Charter Revision Commission. They rejected minority representation initially. And so I think what is worth is to send it back to them for more discussion. So I will support. That was a hard decision for me. So unless there's any other comments, I will call for the vote.
So
Yeah, Ms. Young.
I do have a question. I think this is a hard decision for us to make. And I think when we initially hear it, we think that everyone again should be here based on the vote and the voice of the people, just like every other party. But with Jalen's explanation and just hearing more people talking about it, the question that comes up for me is, when would we be looking to implement this? And I would say if we pushed it out to 2029, is that what's in there, proposed in there?
I would.
I was 2027, but I'm willing to compromise.
Yeah, I would like for us to consider that as a timeline. But as everyone has shared their ideas of how, and the reasoning for changing their perspective, I think we can take a little bit more time to flesh that out to see what happens over the next 2 elections before we do anything. So I don't know where I am with it, but I would like for that to at least be something we address, change.
Do we have to make a
It's not, I'm sorry, it's not public comment right now, John, I'm sorry.
I would like to be able to address the council just very, very briefly.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. Does someone else have?
Wait, so do we have to make an amendment for the time frame? No.
I'm
gonna ask Attorney Mednick.
It's a friendly amendment accepted by the sponsor and seconder. That's a friendly amendment. 100% compromise.
Okay, so do you want to make an amendment to your recommendation to add the date of 2029?
Yes, I'll make the
Okay.
amendment to change the date from 2027, effective date from 2027 to 2029.
Okay, so I think we can vote with that language. Okay, so all in favor? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just have a question.
Yes.
Clarification, if I may. Record.
I just want to make sure that what we're adopting tonight is there's 2 alternatives. There's the 15 member, you'll have the 2 at large, or the 17 members. So that's what the commission will have to consider as we go through that process, unless the sponsor is simply
17.
you want to leave it 17, no 15 consideration. You'll expand the number of council members to 17 with the 2 at large.
Mhm.
Because the way it's written right now, it's an either or.
Yeah.
Okay. We ready? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think Ms. Wennerstrand, 8. Okay, 8 in favor, opposed? Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
5, 6. Am I right? 6? Okay, 6, okay, and 6 opposed, so that passes. Okay. All right, moving on to article, number 7, article 4, 4-7, compensation fixed by council Please consider adding a baseline salary for the council, an amount equal to 3% of the mayor's salary. Discussion, comments? Ms. Majewski, I'm sorry. You. I didn't see who was first, sorry. Ms. Ayers, I think it was you.
Yeah, no, I don't write stuff down. So, but I wrote this down. And that's not me, because y'all know that's not me. But I want to take a moment to speak about the importance of increasing council pay, not as a matter of personal benefit, but as a matter of equality, fairness, and access to public service for those who may come after me. Let me be clear, I'm not making this case for myself. I choose to serve knowing the compensation, but I also know firsthand the time, effort, and sacrifice this role requires. And I'm speaking on behalf of those future leaders who want to serve their communities, but simply cannot afford to. Right now, council members receive approximately $50 a month. That hasn't changed for decades. And it doesn't reflect the reality of the time we put in or the cost of doing this work. The meetings, the calls, the research, the events, the ribbon cuttings, the caucuses, these are all real things that we all are supposed to be doing. And that labor deserves real respect. Some say if $50 isn't enough, you shouldn't run for office. But that way of thinking assumes that only people with money, flexible jobs, and privilege should lead. It builds barriers instead of removing them. And it excludes the voices of working class people, young professionals, maybe those who are just turning 18 and wanted to serve, caregivers, and people who should have seats at this table. Now, I know another argument that has often been raised since we've been having this discussion is, this isn't a financial time for the city. And I hear that concern, and I share that concern usually. But here's the truth. There will never be a perfect time to invest in equality. Waiting for the ideal financial moment often means waiting for forever. Investing in fair compensation for public service is not a luxury. It is a necessity for a healthy democracy. It shows we value diverse leadership and that we take public service seriously. This isn't about turning council service into a career. I don't think any of us thought this was going to be our career. It's about making it accessible to everybody. Because if we want a government that reflects the people it serves, we have to make space for all people, not just those who can afford to volunteer. I don't plan on sitting in this seat till I die. And so there are going to be someone that follows me. That is the way. That is our culture. But I don't want whomever follows me to have to grapple with getting to meetings, answering phone calls, doing the bare minimum because of compensation. Nor do I want that person to have to ever worry about their home being lack because they can't take on extra hours because they have committed to this seat. We have passed unanimously, I believe, about term limits and sending it back to the charter revision to discuss about what a term limit is. So we are saying publicly, we want to discuss lengthening the term of council and mayor and others. But we don't want to take seriously the need to compensate individuals and understand their worth and that their time is precious. So obviously, I've been fighting this fight. This is my second charter revision, fighting this fight about compensation. And I know some of my colleagues are going to say, oh, I don't agree because of this and that. And that's fine. We can all agree to disagree. But I think people need to take a conscious note to say, who am I keeping away from this table by keeping it at $50? That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Mr. Wiggins.
Nora
Oh.
first.
Oh, yeah, no, you did, it was, nor you did have your hand up first.
Sounds good. I just want to, I think, in many ways, echo what Ms. Ayers has said. The compensation of this council has not been raised since, I believe it's 1951, when the last charter revision happened before we revised 2 years ago. What people thought the council was worth, $6,000 a year in 1951, is a great deal more than $6,000 right now. And so what we have seen is an erosion of the amount accorded to the seat, so to return it to a level that is in the ballpark of what it used to be, 3% works out to a little over $5,000 a year right now, is to really get back to the original intent of the charter. Mr. Mendick has very kindly, and you all can find this online, he went through and has given us a rundown on the compensation of other councils around the state. 5,000 would put us, pretty much in the middle of the pack. And I think is, as Ms. Ayers said, a fair acknowledgement of the fact that this job requires an enormous amount of time. It requires making other decisions to put aside other things. It requires finding babysitters and, covering other costs, technology. And I think that it is good to make sure that this council is made up of people who are here because they believe they have something to contribute and that they are not kept away by the additional expenses on top of the additional time, on top of the other demands. And for that reason, I think that the council merits increasing the compensation and setting it at a level that it will then very gradually increase every year as the mayor's salary very gradually increases, so that we no longer have this problem of the sort of diminishment of compensation over time. And, the truth is, at the end of the day, it is a very American thing to value what we pay for. And I think that the importance of legislative bodies is something we are wrestling with in this country as a whole right now, at every level. And I think it is important to say that I deeply believe legislative bodies matter. I think that we deliver diversity of thought, we deliver voices for our community, we deliver a sounding board, we deliver new ideas, and it is important to stand up to say that the Norwalk Common Council, hopefully soon the Norwalk City Council, delivers for its constituents, and that is something that should be compensated.
Mr. Wiggins?
Thank you, Barbara. A couple of things. For one, I think this is an equity issue. We don't talk about it enough to some of the things that Ms. Ayers said, when you think about the people that's on the council or that can even be on the council, it's usually people that, retire or, they want to be seat holders or whatever the case may be. I think it's really important for us to look at this a lot of different ways because, even me, it's tough. I never thought it would be this much work, right? And sometimes I do have to compromise. I do have to, miss a meeting because of my children and because of, things that other things that's really important to me. So I think this would definitely help. Nora, it was 1951 was the last time when this was implemented.
It was either 51 or 53.
Either or. People, I walk around the city, they think I have money. I stop. They think we get paid a lot. They already think that we get paid. I'm like, only if you knew. I try to not tell them because it's kind of embarrassing. When you hear $50 a month, it's kind of crazy when you really think about it. And for all the work that we do, and I've witnessed some way more than me. Some people in this council work a lot to provide for this city and put in like these amendments and what Nora has been able to do over these last, probably couple of months really. So I think it's extremely important. And like Nora said, other cities is doing it, it's been doing it. And once again, I'm afraid to even tell them what we did. I met someone from New Haven on their alderman's And they was telling me about, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to tell them what we get in Norwalk. So I think it's extremely important. And to Nikki's point, you know, this is for the future. When this get implemented, I might not even be in the seat. But I do think about people in the future that will take seats, and motivated by me and, you know, being able to be on the council, right? And hold this position and make their voice be heard. And I think this also helped. But I also think it allowed people to be more civically engaged too, right? Because when they do start asking the questions, oh, what about compensation? If that is a question, right? And not saying most people do, because I never even knew about it. But if that ever come up, people will be more inclined to be civically engaged, right? We have a mayor that get paid, which is also an elected position. So I think it's really important. So I'm going to be voting yes on this, and I'm pretty sure our community will back this because it's extremely important.
Other comments? Mr. Goldstein?
Thank you. I think every argument that has been raised tonight and in past meetings, especially from Ms. Ayers, you know, Mr. Iser, Mr. Wiggins, they're all correct. They're all correct. Council should be more accessible. Compensation is a part of that. You know, Nora's historical perspective, I think, is correct. The one thing I am concerned about, the one thing that has really worried me about this particular item is that politics isn't fair. And that it will, I fear, project a sense of tone deafness. Because one thing that I think in this current moment, and I realize when we talk about charters protect the future, and I have a thought about that, but you know, we are facing not just a financial crisis here at home, where obviously property values have risen, the residential property tax burden is way higher than commercial. We're looking to fix that. We know about those challenges. And of course, now we have a new set of federal challenges where a lot of federal grants that we've come to expect and advocate for, it's not entirely clear whether we're going to get them. Trump administration is currently holding $1 million in education funding, for example. We're probably not going to get for things like ESL students and teacher retention programs. The thing that I'm worried about is arguing for a council pay raise in this moment. It smacks of not looking around and seeing what we're doing, what's going on around us right now. And I think about one of the things I'm thinking about, and I think would be worth further discussion during the conferral phase with the Charter Revision Commission, is thinking about how you can structure compensation or some sort of, you know, access to funds so that those access issues, those equity issues that Ms. Ayers raised so correctly can be addressed in a way that doesn't also redound on or possibly jeopardize the passage of a lot of the important work that's out of this charter. I think back in 2016, a similar version of this amendment was raised and it was put in the charter, and the charter didn't pass. And it took 7 years later to pass a charter that was a major cleanup job. And these issues were raised then, and there was, I think, a justifiable concern regarding the volatility of those items. Obviously, we're in a different place now than we were 2 years ago, but I think about the fact that the optics of it and the appearance of it is going to create a substantial potential impediment for us. And so I think that should this item pass, I think we should be really open-minded in discussions with the Charter Revision Commission on ways to structure this so that it does provide equity, but also it doesn't just smack of just a simple pay raise. You know, other items like this, you know, have passed in prior, you know, cities, but, you know, it didn't happen during this time, or the composition of the cities differently. There are a lot of sort of external factors that I think we're not really putting into account. So, you know, and I also think about the fact that the other elected representatives on the Board of Education get paid $0. And that's required by state statute, actually. And I don't think that's fair, but that's just the reality. So I as currently proposed, I am going to vote no. But should a different version come out of the control process and that's negotiated and that, you know, maybe appears differently or is structured differently, I might be able to change something.
Yes, but Attorney Mendon.
Just procedurally, if you want this to be discussed in the conferral process, you need to tell the council or the commission that you want to discuss the 3% proposal, or if I'm listening to what you're saying, an expense reimbursement concept. Yeah, well, stipend, you have to be careful with the word stipend because it's compensation. And so it has to be carefully crafted. Can I just say, Madam President, the reason we're here, the reason that this is an issue, and the reason that a lot of charters end up dealing with this is that there is a state statute
Yes.
that requires a referendum for legislative approval. It basically affects 17 to 20 communities, maybe 17 to 20 communities. It affects communities that have city councils, board of alders, boards of representative. It affects those cities and those cities alone, because there's no compensation for the town meeting. You know, in the smaller towns, there's no compensation for the RTM, although the RTM is more like a legislative body. And so it only affects a small number of legislative bodies. And so we have created these devices and charters, because the charter has to be approved through referendum to address compensation that way. The other way to address this, ultimately, it would not be, it's not really germane, but I just wanted to let you know what the process is to get legislation to take that clause out of the statute so that you can have legislative compensation, your compensation, addressed in the budget the same way that the mayors or the town clerks or others are addressed in the budget. So I just wanted to point that out, so that if you want the commission to consider more than the 3% proposal, to have a dialogue and use that dialogue between the council and the commission during that period, you'd have to refer that to them with the 3% proposal. Thank you.
Is there? I just want to speak to what council person, Josh just said when he brought up the concerns about what is going on in Washington. What's happening on our federal level should remind us how important local government is. At this level is where leadership starts. At this level is when constituents have the most interaction with their elected officials. At this level. At this level, we build trust. At this level, we touch lives. And if we want strong, inclusive, local leadership, we have to invest in it. And we're not Congress. I know sometimes we think we are. We're not Congress. We are not operating in a gridlock. We are not filibustering till 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. That just is not our reality. And I do hear your argument in saying we don't know how it's going to trickle down. Josh, I hear you. I don't want you to think I don't hear you. But in local government, we serve the real people. We walk out our doors and we have to see them. We are not detached and at the Capitol. We are here. And we go to grocery stores and have to stop and address whatever concerns. When we're getting our car changed, when we're dropping our kids off to school, we are boots on the ground here. And decisions that we make should reflect the values of this community, not necessarily what's happening on a federal level. I'm not saying we need to be ignorant to it, because there's things in the budget things that we need to be mindful of that, because we're gonna have to pivot. But I don't want it to get lost in the sauce that the founders thought that the local level was important. The founders of the United States thought that this is where we were gonna do some moving and some shaking. And we need to really understand that stipends, compensation, a little pocket change, whatever you gonna call it, needs to reflect the values. I may not like all of y'all, and I may not agree with all of y'all, but I'm gonna tell you, I think your value is more than $50 a month, which equates to $600 a year. That's it.
Mr. Wiggins.
Thank you, Chair. So just thinking about some of the things that Mr. Goldstein said, we're gonna continue to face challenges regardless. Like, every year is gonna be a new challenge. This is not gonna change or, you know, dictate the challenges that we're gonna face. We're gonna always face challenges. We don't live in a perfect society. We don't live in a perfect world. It's just our reality. We're gonna face challenges, right? Sometimes, you know, it's gonna be harder than others, but we're gonna continue to face challenges. And to Nikki's point, when you think about, you know, municipal government, this is where it starts for us. This is where, you know, every day we're seeing, we don't have security, we don't have any of that stuff, right? We're literally sacrificing our life to be here. In many ways, right? We've had threats to some council members, right? Right? Like, think about that for a second. I don't think we pay a lot of attention to that. We're literally risking our life in some capacity to serve our community. Right? Senators get paid, our Congress get paid. We don't talk about that much. And they get paid way more than what we propose, right? So it's just something to think about. If I'm not mistaken, the implementation would be, it's not even, you know, when is the implementation, what was proposed?
Well, it was actually a friendly amendment I was considering making, which is we should probably make this 2029
Yeah.
in the same
So,
way.
so that's another thing, is some of us, this is not about us, right? This is about the future. Some of us don't have aspirations to really be on this council, further in this next election. So, this is not a selfish moment for those who's watching. This is really a moment of leadership and thinking about our future and our, for our kids and, those who's coming after us.
Mr. C.
Yeah, I've been vocal about this. I was on the fence because, like Mr. Goldstein said, I think the optics of it look bad because of the times that we are in. But a lot of council members, kind of said like, it's never gonna be a good time. So I went back and I looked at like the history of it and, yeah, back in, like Mr. Goldstein said, it failed when it was there, but it was also attached to the 4-year mayoral term on that one. And then looking back at the last time the charter revision did pass, one of the things that the council said and charter revision said that they were gonna take it easy and not do the controversial stuff that year. And then they were gonna readdress the more controversial stuff now, where we are. And I think sometimes we keep like kicking stuff down the road. But I think that we have an opportunity to, it's all about messaging and it's all about how we message it and how we do the work. And that's why it kind of changed my mind, because a lot of times you just keep kicking it down the can, say patient, we'll take care of it next time, we'll take care of it next time. And then it's 10 years, 50 years down the road and people are still getting paid $50 for this. If you look at it, one of the things that I had a hard time thinking about was, is this gonna make everybody want to run for council because it's going to be life-changing amount of money? It's not. It's $5,000 a year around that, and or 3,000.
No, 6,000.
5,000. About 5,000. Yeah, 3%, but it equates like if it was now, it'd be about $5,000.
That's before taxes.
Before taxes, but $5,000 in Norwalk, Connecticut. For some people, that's not even rent. So if for 1 month. So $5,000 a year is not gonna make everybody want to come and make this a job where everybody's like, okay, I'm gonna run for council because it's gonna be a nice paycheck every month. This is something that's just gonna make it more equitable, so people get some type of compensation for their time. this is not even gonna be full compensation, still not minimum wage for everything that we do. And because of that, that's why I changed my mind, because I think we have a lot of stuff and I think we have a chance to be bold here. But I do understand the challenges, but I think we're gonna have those same challenges if we go ahead with the 4-year mayoral term and a lot of things here. So that's why, I'll be supporting.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken? Go ahead, Mr. Jessica.
So one quick point to Mr. Seed's point, and I think that this is something I've been thinking about as well. I think the Charter Revision Commission initially recommended that we revisit the charter in 5 years. And I think that was in part because they were not sure about our willingness, capacity to dive in and really tackle the controversial stuff. And I want to applaud my colleagues. We have dug in, we have tackled the controversial stuff. This has been an amazing process. And I really think that, and to, I think Mr. Seed's point, I don't want to spend, and I love Mr. Benedict. I really enjoy Mr. Benedict's time. I would love to have him here every 5 years. I'd love to have him here every 2 years. Please believe we probably shouldn't be spending another $100,000 5 years from now. We should bite the bullet. We should deal with all the hard stuff now, and then we don't have to do another charter revision in 5 years. We can put it off for another 10, or, you know, maybe we'll get lucky a little farther. So I think I'm with Mr. Seed on that. I think we do it. We do the hard stuff. We take the hit, but we also say this is the right thing and it needs to be dealt with at some point, and better now than $100,000 5 years from now. To that point, though, I would be happy to make a friendly amendment on 2 points here, because I think it's technically was my amendment. One, I do think 2029 implementation, as in the same way we're looking at everything else, so that again, there's no one here who has a particularly strong personal incentive. And second, to Mr. Goldstein's point, I think it would be fine for the language of the resolution to read. Please consider adding a baseline salary for the council in amount equal to 3% of the mayor's salaries effective in 2029. Or an alternate compensation mechanism that addresses the need to open the council to all candidates who wish to run, or something to that effect.
You talk about expense with compensation.
Expense, yes, absolutely.
Nora, I'm sorry, Councilperson Najishki Actor, can you say that again, because with the correction?
So, yes, so my friendly amendment is to modify this to say, please consider adding a baseline salary for the council in amount equal to 3% of the mayor's salary effective in 2029. Or an alternate mechanism sufficient to address the expenses incurred by council members. Well, does that give you enough flexibility, Mr. Mednick?
Can we agree, Nora, I don't know how you feel about this, because we're in a two-term cycle. I think 2027 will still give us that right, because or no? So we can keep it 2029.
Yeah, since we did minority party representation at 2029, I feel like,
okay,
let's,
all right.
you know, we're pushing everything out a little bit, so I think that's a fair way to handle it.
Corporation Counsel Coppola would like to speak.
Thank you. If I could just make
Sorry.
just one suggestion from somebody who may in the future have to interpret a provision of the charter that you're maybe considering this evening, I would strongly suggest that whatever language you propose, that we try to keep it as simple as possible, and language that would not lead to questions of interpretation. Certainly would make my job, if I'm here in the future, easier if the language is clear. And I just, you know, as you're thinking about potential changes in language, that you keep into consideration, you know, future interpretation of that language, and to try to keep it as simple and straightforward as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Coppola. And just to be clear, this is only the resolution language. We have not negotiated the actual verbiage on this yet, and so.
No, I understand and appreciate that. Just as we're, you know, as you're thinking, you're thinking about it. I know you're talking about it now, really in a conceptual way, but just when we're thinking about taking the next step forward with language, that we just keep into consideration that whatever's proposed, that it's something that's clear, and hopefully doesn't lead to questions of interpretation in the future. And certainly we have Attorney Mendick who's done this all across the state, and he could provide us with guidance as well in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tough one. I just want, I found myself, where I had landed with this before this discussion is thinking that I would like to see this addressed in that 5-year, right? In that 5-year. And then get, onto the agenda or, onto the ballot the year after. So we're talking about like a 2-year difference. And so, so I have a few comments, right? I really want to thank everyone for the discussion. And I really want to thank you, Ms. Ayers, for your perspective. There have been a lot of arguments here tonight for pay for the council, for matters of equity, for matters of diversity, for matters of value of the work that we do. And so I guess where I'm at, where after hearing the discussion is what's the difference between 2029 and 2031? What is the difference? So I guess I've come down as supporting this. So that's where I'm not gonna be on this council then. So, whatever happens, I won't be here. And I think, it's been pointed out, a lot of us won't be here. We serve our terms and, we give what we can and, so I'm going to support it, and I'll support the clear language that, so we're coming up with. Okay. Any final comments? All right.
I just want to say that I appreciate that we're really digging in. And I hope that what we're talking about and the fact that we're agreeing to push these things out another 2 years shows folks, residents, that this is not about us. And as you have said, and as Ms. Ayers has said, it is not about us. So this is not a personal gain, but it is about the future, as you so eloquently said, Ms. Ayers, early on. And so I think, and I hope that residents see that this is not self-serving, that this is about providing an opportunity for folks who will be here in the future, whether that's one of us, any of us or not. And so I'm very thankful for that, and to all the work that we just put in again, just put in again to making sure that we are thoughtful about this.
Is this? Do you think it's appropriate for us to have a roll call vote or a regular vote?
I don't think, we can, but I think we may not need it, but we could do it.
I also need the votes from the previous one, because it was just, so a roll call would be better.
Okay, all right, okay.
Are you ready?
Go ahead, yes.
Mr. Burnett? Mr. Burnett?
He raises.
But what does that mean?
What does that mean?
I raised my hand. It was an aye.
I don't see, thank you. Mr. Goldstein?
No.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Ms. Najolski Eichner? Aye. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers? Yes. Mr. Seed?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins?
Yes.
Ms. Young? Yes. Ms. Edie? Yes. Ms. Winterstrand?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton?
No.
Mr. Frayer?
No.
Ms. Shanahan?
No.
Ten yeses and 4 noes, it passes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 8, appointment of common council employees, move 5-5D to council article and expand to permit the hiring of staff as follows. Appointment of the Common Council's employees. The council may at any time appoint an assistant clerk who shall provide administrative assistance to the council under the direction of the president and shall, in the absence or in the case of the disability or death of the clerk, perform all the duties of the clerk. All records and acts of the assistant shall have the same validity as the records of the clerk. The council may at any time also appoint by majority vote any additional employees as it finds necessary to effectively conduct the council's business, and the Board of Estimate and Taxation shall appropriate compensation for any such employees as shall be fixed by the council. Comments or discussion? Ms. Nadjelski.
Thank you, Council President. Just very briefly, this moves the Assistant City Clerk into the section of the charter that deals with the council's authority, because this Assistant City Clerk is a council appointment, which was established in the prior Charter Revision Commission in 2023. And then it also would give us the authority to hire additional staff if we found that to be necessary. And without rehashing the very long discussions we've had on this, there is a great deal of work that this council does. We get constant pushback about the fact that we are not doing sufficient work. People would like more communications, people would like more information. There's a practical limitation to that with an all volunteer body. Our Assistant City Clerk has been terrific. She has a great deal to do already. And so this provides the council with the flexibility in the future that were the council to decide that it was in the best interest of the city to hire additional staff, the council would have that authority.
Okay, oh, go ahead, Mr. Parrish, sorry.
We've spoken about this a while, a number of times. I think it's kind of open-ended. It's not specific. We don't know what the duties of this person are going to be. We don't know how much it costs. We don't know what the responsibilities are. Right now, we do have an assistant clerk that is gotten in and changed a lot of things that were very time consuming and cumbersome to do, and has really streamlined what we've already done. So, which when we do things smart and the way Esther is doing it, I think we save a lot of time and we are working a lot more efficiently. I just don't see that another position is going to, is going to help us that much. I don't see anybody coming forward with projects that have to be done and saying, "Oh, we can't do it because we don't have anybody to do it right now." I would love to see a description or a job description of what we're talking about here, and then I might have another opinion. But before I find out what that person's going to do, I don't want to go online and go on out and hire somebody and then figure out what we're going to do with them. I'd rather have some objective of what we're trying to accomplish and then find the person for that job.
Mr. Seed.
I think, definitely understand, Mr. Freya's concerns, but I think what this is this is just giving the council the ability to hire staff. And I don't think in the charter, we're gonna really put a job description in the charter, because I think we need some fluidity to decide what that person is gonna do. This could be somebody that does financials, this is somebody that can really do anything, and then it still has to come to the council to be approved. So I don't think this is not saying that we're going to hire somebody. This is saying that we have the ability to hire somebody, and the council has the ability to set the terms of what that person is going to be doing. So for that, that's why I support it. I do understand that, but I wouldn't vote on hiring somebody unless I knew what they were going to do. But I don't think that this is what this does. I think this just says that we can hire, and this just gives us the power to hire staff. And at that such time, before we hire staff, we would have to go through and decide what we're going to pay them and what they're going to be doing. Yeah, we'll have to do that before we put the job description out to get hired to hire anybody anyway. So for that reason, I'll be supporting.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Josh.
Okay, thank you. I will be supporting this item for the reasons that Mr. Seed just said. I think that we can, we're a judicious body, and if there is the right circumstances upon which staff can be hired and provide a value of service, and we do though going through the budget process and making sure that it's something we can afford, but also provides a value to course, this council, but also its residents. I don't see why we can't do that. So I will be supporting this item.
Ms. Young.
So as someone who served as the assistant city clerk, I think it's imperative. I think that the council needs an independent staff that works for them. And I think for a while, there may have been some overlap, right? So the assistant city clerk is under the city clerk. And I know that when I was in that role, so when the city clerk was not around, there were overlapping duties and responsibilities. But I think there needs to be a position for the council. And if we think about when we did not have staff, right? We did not we had to do a lot of that work ourselves. But when you do have someone, one of the things that we wanted to do was to be more communicative with the community. We wanted to do, we started a newsletter. So there are things that we can do as a council, but we need staff to do it. And someone who is dedicated to the council. And I think it's imperative. I don't know how we add 2 more people onto this. You know, we're thinking about adding more, folks onto this council, which means more work. And so I think this is a critical position for 15 or 17 people who've been elected to do the work for the city, and to think that we can just do that all alone. We need that. One of the other things that person could have been or do is be a legislative aide that goes to Hartford. I mean, there are things that can be done, but I think having this ability to do that is necessary. And I'd rather see it written and in some sort of form as opposed to not having that ability to do that.
Question for Attorney Mednick. Attorney Mednick, have you, in your experience, seen anything like this? Let's say you have a mayor, CFO, now you're Jared, that's unsupportive. And this can be used as a tool to help the legislative body do some research, obtain other types of information, whether it's financial data, whatever the case may be. Has this been used anywhere else across the state?
Legislative bodies have staffs across the state. Hartford has a pretty robust legislative staff. New Haven has a very robust legislative staff. When I chaired the finance committee, I had a full-time financial aide who worked with me as chair of the finance committee. Stanford Board of Reps, which gets paid 0, by the way, the 40 members of the Board of Reps, they have a pretty substantial legislative staff as well. The difference between this provision and the provisions in the other communities, Stanford probably excluded as well, although they do play a role on line items in the budget at the end of the process, is the other communities don't need a provision that mandates the fiscal body to provide the funding, because the other communities have the ability in the budget process to approve a budget. And so they balance and negotiate their budget with the mayor when the mayor presents a budget. But in this situation, since you have no line item authority, the language that requires the Board of Estimate to provide the staffing to you at your request is different than in other communities, but because your budget structure is different than other communities.
Thank you.
Other comments? Shall we, do you prefer we do roll call vote for every? Let's do roll call vote. Okay. Let's call for the vote.
Mr. Burnett.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. My vote is no.
Mr. Goldstein,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Ms. Najolski Eichner,
Aye.
Ms. Smith? No. Ms. Ayers? Yes. Mr. Seed,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins,
Yes.
Ms. Young,
Yes.
Ms. Edie,
Yes.
Ms. Winterstrand,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton,
Yes.
Mr. Freya,
No.
Ms. Shanahan,
From the water.
No.
Of the.
we have 4 no's and 10 yeas, the motion passes. Next is,
10.
Okay, 10. Article 7(1)(a), 2 and 3, appointment term of office qualification and political balance of the Board of Estimate. Please consider requiring a member of the Common Council to be appointed to serve either as an additional 8th non-voting member or a 7th voting member. Comments?
Okay.
Mr. Chelsea.
Sorry, I just was trying not to jump on anyone else. So, this is a proposal that, as I was checking whether Councilmember Young wants to speak to it first, she had first raised in, I don't know which of our workshops, several workshops ago. But this is one I've really come to actually think is a terrific idea. So the proposal here is to add a council member to the Board of Estimate and Taxation. And I think that it serves a couple of really terrific and helpful functions for us. One is it ensures that there's clear communication consistently and constantly between the BET and the council. And that is so important because the BET retains line item authority, but it is this council that actually oversees all of the work being done by the departments. And so one of my major concerns that I've expressed ad nauseum over the last couple of years is that the entity having the budget authority is not the entity that actually knows what's happening on the ground. And so I think this communication line is a great suggestion. I also think that it provides some check and balance on the mayor, particularly if, as I hope is the case, the council member is a voting member. You then actually have a really lovely structure where the mayor has a vote, the council has a vote, and there are 5 members, 1 from each district. And so you're really getting a balance of elected officials, representatives, unelected representatives from the city. And I think the final point that I, particularly advocate for this too, is that I ultimately hope that we will move to a situation like most of the rest of the cities in Connecticut, where the council has line item authority. And I think that this is a good way of moving the council towards that capacity, towards that. It really helps develop the internal capacity, strengthens our understanding of the line items of the process. So all the way around, I think it's a really elegant solution that balances a lot of needs while maintaining the current structure to a large extent. So I'm very much in favor, and I encourage others on that.
I'm sorry, I've got that. So, thank you, Ms. Wojciechowski-Eichner. I think one of the concerns that I've heard people talk about is whether this position should have a voting, be a voting member. And for me, I think that I am okay with them being in that ex officio capacity. But I do think it is important to have, to increase the dialogue and the communication between the BET and the Common Council. And I won't belabor what she just mentioned, but I think this is something that we need to really consider doing and flesh out the amount of time that that position, the person would be sitting on that position in that role, particularly during the budget season, right? And so in the meantime, when we're not going through the budget process, we may not have to have that person going to that meeting, but I think those are things that we flesh out as we move forward. But I think it's imperative that this be in our charter to give us some teeth and some spot, place at the table of this process during the budget season.
Other comments?
There's some,
Other comments? Yes, Mr. Goldstein.
All I was gonna say about this, I think, first of all, I commend Councilmember Young and Chelsea-Eichner for their thought on this one. I do support the language as currently written for the recommendation. The one thing that I do think that does need to be discussed, and this is encompassed within the writing, so I'm not asking for an amendment or anything here, but that if it's one member who gets appointed, that member is going to have outsized power relative to other members of the common council. And so or city council in the future. So I do think that the way in which the council considers this person, should the CRC adopt the person as a voting member, is something we need to really think about, because that person is going to have an outsized amount of power relative to everyone else on the council. And also is an enormous time commitment. So I just think that those issues are going to require some further discussion during the conferral meeting. It's why the language is written, whether it's as a non-voting member, as a voting member. I would be interested in hearing what the Charter Revision Commission, not to be so jargoning, it's CRC like a nerd, is worth further discussion. And I think we need to keep an open mind about that as we think about this item further. But as written right now, I will vote yes on this.
Go ahead. And to your point, Justin, I think as we were talking about increasing the seats on the council, I think that might be something as well, that whoever the additional bodies will be, could be someone that is appointed to this specifically. So I think that helps us in terms of being able to have representation on this committee and not overburden folks. But I think that's something, of course, we flesh out as we move forward, but I really feel that this should be included in this process. In the charter.
And I believe Jared Schmidt is here, our CFO. You've expressed your concerns about a voting member. Is that correct? Am I recalling that correctly? The council member being a voting member of the BET?
My concern was that you would have a single member voting, casting 2 votes on the budget, which in a small group like this, where you have BET involved and the common council involved, it's a limited number of people, and to have one person with that power, it seems to me like a lot of power. I think the idea of putting someone in there who has who's able to kind of be the liaison between the common council and the BET is not a bad idea. Is a good idea for streamlining ideas and thoughts and working things out in the process, so that they don't wait till the end of the process. I think that's a fine idea.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, that, I feel it's really important to have that person from the council on the board, but not as a voting member. And so we discussed that in the control process. Mr. Wiggins.
What would be the difference between this individual, anybody on any other committees as a voting member? They still will get 2 different votes, right? If we're on, yeah, you want to answer.
My point was not about us relative as council members, is that the way this is structured is that.
No, I'm talking, well, even what he just said, right?
Oh, if you're asking a question to Jared, then I'm not gonna answer, if you're asking a question to Jared.
No, the concern, you said the concerns was having 2 votes, right? But on every other committee, we have 2 votes. So if we're in community service, I'm voting, we gotta come back to the council, we gotta vote anyway. So what would be the difference?
Well,
Right?
I guess then that person would have 3 votes to be technical about it, that they would have an additional vote because they're voting from the committee as well.
So they would have to come, it would be the BET, then it gotta go to the finance committee.
Right.
And then go to the, okay.
Who's next?
Okay. And I think it may be getting lost, but my understanding when we discussed this heavily was that this person that's sitting on the council is voting the will of the council. They're not voting their personal vote. They're voting, so I'll use myself as an example. If it was me and I might have voted against the budget, but the budget passed, the council vote is that the budget passed. When I go to the BET, I am not voting as my individual. I am voting as a representative of this August body. So I don't see that as additional vote, because that person is then our spokesperson in that arena. And we have often chosen someone amongst ourselves to sit on other entities. We do it all the time, to be our spoken voice on other entities. That person does not, I mean, I don't know if we have the right language, but how we function currently, that person does not do their own thing. They have to present the will and the stand of what this body agreed on. So for me, I don't see it as an additional vote, and that's why I think the person does need to be able to vote, because they're voting our collective vote. I said a lot, but I hope I was clear.
No, you were.
Okay.
Council President.
Yes, go ahead.
My only, it's not really a rebuttal to what Councilmember Ayers said. It's just more that when you have a representative on a particular body, right, all of us as a council are not going to be informed. Like, for example, we have a representative to the WPCA, right? We don't know about every single vote that the WPCA takes. We expect that the council person who represents us in the WPCA will, as you've said, represent the majority. However, unless you're keeping track of every single vote the WPCA takes, you're not going to know every single vote that happens. And so, yes, there's a measure of trust that goes into that. That's absolutely true. The Board of Estimate and Taxation amongst our boards of commissions is one of, if not the most powerful board of the commission in this city. I'm saying it is an incredible responsibility that we would be giving to this person. So I do think that we would need to be mindful, if that person is a voting member, how we as a body make sure that they are doing exactly what you just said, which is truly representing our, our collective position. And by the way, there are sometimes where that we're not going to have a collective position on a specific line item issue that the BET is considering in a specific budget. And so I'm just saying we need to think strategically and a little holistically about how we make sure that that person is doing what we want them to be doing. That's my point.
Mr. Fred.
We started off on this, saying one of the major reasons for this was to have somebody that can communicate the council's thoughts and the BET's information back to the council. We have a finance committee that meets with the BET on a regular basis. The BET has open meetings. There's no reason why, and as particularly during the budget season, why I always encourage people to go to those, to find out what they have to say what it is that they're doing. I think part of maybe the issue we have here is that it's not, I think it's not clear to some of my colleagues as to what really goes on at some of these meetings and the process that we go through. And if the BET is there to, is made up of financially trained people that have had experience in perhaps big corporations, other municipalities, maybe in academia, and so forth. And they're the experts that we rely on to go in and take a look at all those levers that get switched on or off when spending is approved or is being measured. Okay, how will spending for a particular budget affect our ability to borrow? How will it affect our fund balance, our rainy day fund? How much of that is going to be impacted by that? Will that give us a bad name in the credit rating agencies out there? All of these things are taken into consideration. If the council feels that we have to know more about that, then I would suggest that they go to a financial committee meeting and you can find out what's going on at the BET or ask anybody. The BET, Mr. or Jared is with us at all of those financial committee meetings to explain to us what's going on. So I think the ability to communicate is up to us. And I think we've got to take the leadership. We've got to take the initiative to go out and find out what that BET is doing, or have Greg come to us and give us a report. he does give us a report, as a matter of fact, we go through many of the things that the BET approves. He reports it back to us as well. So I don't see the value of this. And for one person on the committee, on the council, and let's say that person's not a financially astute person that's gonna go to the BET, is he gonna understand all this? Do you want him being the voice of the council if he doesn't understand what they're talking about? Okay, is that what we're asking? Or you expect him to come back and be able to articulate exactly what their thoughts were that help us? I would much rather have Greg explain that to us than anybody else. Okay, plus the fact that it's an enormous amount of work that he's going to be involved in. So for those reasons, I think that I'm going to vote no on this. We have people in place to do all of this right now, so that's it.
Mr. Burnett.
I believe council member Lisa Shanahan's hand was up first.
Yeah, it was. Thank you so much for saying that, Mr. Burnett. So again, I'm going to adopt most of the all of the comments of Josh and most everything that Jim said. My point is that no, I would support a non-voting member of the Common Council on the BET, but no one Common Council member can speak for the whole council. The only thing the whole council speaks together to the BET about is the caps. And then when it comes to all the other votes that the BET takes, those aren't things that the council will approve on a line-by-line basis. And so I just think it's inappropriate and that one Common Council member cannot speak for the whole council on the BET. So I'm happy to vote in favor of a Common Council sitting as a ex officio, but not as a voting member.
Any other comments? I mean, the language is, we're asking them to look at either or. So. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, Greg.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. If the spirit of this request is to increase the interaction and dialogue with the Board of Estimate and Taxation, I truly believe there's other methods that can be done or put in place to increase that interaction without placing someone actually on the BET. Comments were made that, oh, well, the council appointed person can attend meetings during the budget season. That assumes that the only time the BET is doing work is during the budget season, which is absolutely not correct. They're doing work year round. And when that individual is sitting at the table and whether they're in a voting capacity or not, decisions are made, and the mechanism is not set up for them to say, hold it, I got to go interface with the council. I got to get the council's thoughts before I can vote. We all know that is not the process that takes place. They are making a decision at the table if they're a voting member. And if they're not a voting member, they're giving their personal thoughts to impact the decisions that are being made. They're not coming, there's no opportunity for them to come back to the council and say, what does the council think of this item? And then the next month when the BET meets, the process doesn't flow that way. So whatever person is sitting in this capacity will be making their personal thought and decision and providing their personal input as it relates to whatever item is on the table at that moment. But I believe that we can accomplish increasing the interaction with the BET without specifically requiring a council member to sit on the BET, which I believe would not satisfy what we're trying to achieve in this request.
Mr. Seed.
So I think, well, first I think I want to start, to my knowledge, Mr. Megan, maybe you could correct me, there's no requirements right now who we appoint to, or who the mayor appoints to the BET. They don't have to have a financial background. They don't have to have any of that information, or have any of that that skill set or knowledge to serve on the BET.
That's correct.
So I think the mayor does appoint, we confirm, people that go into BET, they don't have a requirement and they don't have to have the knowledge to the financial knowledge that you speak of. And I think if we do appoint somebody from the common council, we would do our due diligence to make sure that it's somebody who can well represent us and be well versed. So I just think that that's important to think of, because right now we could put people on the BET who don't have that skill set. I also think that it's important because a lot of times now we're talking about the vote that goes to the BET, but I think the information that comes back to the council from that person is far more valuable than the votes that they make. Because that person that serves on the BET, whether voting or non-voting, they're gonna come back to the council and they're gonna come back with the knowledge of why those votes were made. And I think it's gonna be very valuable to the council to understand what's going on, because they have somebody there that can come back and report to us what's going on. So we're talking about the way to the BET, but I think the BET to the council is gonna be somewhat of a liaison that can come back to us and give us the knowledge of why these decisions are made. So if we do want to raise the cap, or we do want to do certain things, they could come back and say, hey, well, this is what we met with these departments and we're looking at it and this is why we didn't do it. And I think we'll be way more informed. My last point, and I really appreciate Councilmember Najilski Eichner on her work here, because we are a legislative body and people think that we have the power that we don't have at this moment. And I think that this, along with some of our other amendments, give us some of the authority to really do the things that people think that we can do. And I think that this gives us a voice. And yes, there's certain things that we can do, and we have certain communications, and we have people on the council now who served on the BET, and I really respect you guys' opinion wholeheartedly. However, we can't think about the charter, our constitution, as of right now, and people attached to it. We have to put in place systematic protections that are going to ensure that we have a better government. And I think that this is a step that ensures that we have a better government, but we also have to have trust in the councils to come that they're going to make the right decisions. We have to do that with all of the appointments to the BET currently, that they're going to put the right people there and they're going to do the right thing. And once you appoint those people there, you got to trust that they're going to do the right thing, because everybody in BET has an accountability that they're speaking for the city of Norwalk, but they have to make their opinion and known. So we have a representative that's going to serve from the council. They're going to have an awesome responsibility that's entrusted to them. But everybody who sits on any board or commission has that awesome responsibility to speak for the entire city of Norwalk. This person is going to have an awesome responsibility to speak for the common council. And yes, that's an awesome responsibility, but everybody on these commissions have to speak for the entire city, which is also an awesome responsibility.
Ms. Najolski Eichner.
Thank you, Mr. Seed. I wish I could. Awesome responsibility.
Feeling awesome responsibility. Today I'm feeling awesome responsibility. One thing that we had discussed, here to this point is that this person be appointed by an actual majority vote of the council, as opposed to typical appointments which are done by the president only. So which member is going to sit on the WPCA as the president's appointment. I think that it would be appropriate for something of this significance to be done by a majority of the whole council, which I think is an important check. Again, as folks have said, I also think that Ms. Ayers had made comments in a prior workshop, which I think are quite logical, that it would be highly likely that the chair of finance would be the person who would take this role. Because that's not anything defined in the charter, it makes no sense to then define it in the charter. But again, I think to a point that a lot of folks have brought up, right? We have our own legislative rules, we have a lot of flexibility. All of our committees are set up, we restructure things as we need to within our body. And that would be the kind of thing that we could address within our own chamber rules, if this provision were to pass. So I think we have a lot of ways of making sure that this is a truly representative of the body, but I do think that, getting more of the council voice into the budget process is really important for, again, really being able to deliver what our constituents expect. As Mr. Seed said, people think we can do this, and it does get old informing people over and over again that in fact, we have no authority here. And I think moving us towards a place where we can meet our constituents' expectations is good for the spot and good for the city.
Mr. Wiggins.
Mr. C really made some valuable points, things that I didn't know, but I think we have two very seasoned individuals, Greg and Jim, being a part of the BET for so long, and doing this work. I feel we missed the mark because, to your point, Jim, you know, a lot of people, even including myself, didn't really understand the process. I think we have to be more proactive and not reactive, and I think this is a case of being reactive. It was opportunities before we got to this point to, you know, train council members or, you know, have these type of conversations. But now we're here, and I think it's the right thing to give, you know, our power, you know, give some power or authority back to the council. I don't, the voting member thing, I'm still kind of conflicted about. I think we got a consensus on not having them as a voting member, but having someone at the BET to be able to teach us, in a sense, what's going on and how all that stuff works is what really catching my eye when thinking about this. But so I'm gonna be in support of it.
Ross, I'm sorry.
Well, Jim want to speak, but I just want to do a general. Go ahead.
Sure, sure.
I just want to caution all of us, as we are looking at the charter, which is our constitution, which is the most important document that the city has. Don't put a person or a face to anything. The charter, it's its own entity. It's its own living document. We should not vote something up and down with the ideal in our head of a person. Don't think of it that way. Think of it almost like future ready, like what's gonna happen in the future. Don't attach a person to any of these amendments. Don't attach like to any of this. You gotta kind of separate it from a personal person and look at the work and the effects or the impact of the work. That's all I would say. As a teacher, I mean, coming.
Yes, good. I had a couple of comments I wanted to make, and I think, Mr. C, you made some very,
Correct.
you made some very good, points. The members of the BET, and as Ms. Hayes just explained, that's our charter. It says we have to appoint X number of people, and we don't go into the specific responsibilities of what they are. But historically, what the mayor's done is said, hey, I need people that really know business. And I want people that have had significant budgeting experience and know what the effect is by approving something or disapproving or cutting back or how to analyze complicated financial information. And so historically, what you've seen on the BET are people that have financial people. I mean, you have the people that are on there. Ian Young is a Goldman Sachs executive that worked there for many years. Troy Gilleret is worked for Wells Fargo Bank in very high positions in the credit areas and so on. So, you know, all of those people play a deep role, and I think it'd be foolhardy for the mayor to take somebody who's you know, an artist, let's say, you know, who teaches art. So yeah, that's a great guy. We'll put him on the BET because he knows all about it. Maybe he knows how to different colors and avoid red lines or something like that. But I think that, you know, the objective is always that we're going to get financial people. The other thing is that it's our responsibility to make sure that we put those people on there. We're asking for more time to approve or to vet people that are going to be put on boards. We should be able to even talk to them and see that these are the right people that we want on that board. Okay, maybe we don't have to put somebody from the council on there because we can vet those people that are going to be on the BET. And then you also touch on the power. I think it's really important that we as
Dewan just mentioned is that, people think we have more power. We do have more power. We have a lot of power. We're the ones that put the cap on the budget. We're the ones that say, this is what the limit of spending for the city is gonna be. And we're doing that because we should know exactly what's going on in every one of our committees. I sit down with Vanessa in Public Works and I go through with her what the budget is, what her needs are, what her wants that she wants, what she really needs that she has to have, what would be nice to have, and we go through that. And so what the BET does and what I do and what we all should be doing as a committee chair is to go through with our department heads exactly the same thing that the BET goes through, analyzing their spending, where they spend. I've told you guys probably 1,000 times the example of the business expense. There's a line in the budget that says business expense. It was $10,000 last year, and they're going for $10,000 again this year. But you asked the question, how much have you already spent? We're 8 months into the year, or 10 months into the year already. How much have you spent? Well, I've spent $2,000 of the 10. Where are you going to spend the rest of the $8,000? Well, we've got 2 months to spend it. I don't know where we're going to spend it. Okay, so the BET reduction to that department is I'm going to reduce it from $10,000 that you're asking for next year to $5,000. We see that and say, look at that, they cut $5,000 out of the budget. Why'd they do that? And then we'd have to go back and explain the whole thing to the council perhaps. But that's the type of analysis that we should be doing with our departments. All of these things that we're looking at, moving the dates around is great. I have no problems with that. But when I see things like this one comment now that we're talking about, Article 10, I think that, this is really our responsibility already. We should be in there doing this work. We've got the power to go in. We're all chairs of certain committees. We can look at their numbers anytime we want. We have the CFO right here that anybody can go ask him a question to find out what the backup is. He's look at his face light up when I say that. But I mean, he's got all the information there and it's all readily available. It's all by line. All we got to do is just go in and ask for it. Okay, so I think I've got to vote no on this because I just think we have the tools there. We can do it ourselves. And if we're going to have more staff, great. Then we have staff to do analysis work that we can tell them about. Okay.
Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to open my comments by saying, the Board of Estimate and Taxation in the city of Norwalk plays an extremely vital role in our budget process, and we need to really respect that and embrace that and honor that. They have really helped and guided to ensure that our budget process goes well and that the city is in good financial posture. And it just seems that the comments that are being made does not represent the value that the Board of Estimate and Taxation brings to the city. And it's almost as if the thoughts that are being displayed are trying to undo the fabric of the BET, as if it's not functioning correctly. And I think that's totally incorrect. I think it's functioning well. It's doing the job that it was designed to do, and it's ensuring that we have a solid and sound budget process. I also want to comment on the thought that Councilman Wiggins made that we missed the mark. I don't know what mark he's talking about. We missed. As a member of the Finance Committee, you had the opportunity to ask as many questions that you felt were necessary on the Finance Committee, and those questions did not formulate. So I'm not sure when you're saying we missed the mark or we needed, putting someone on the BT will, spoon feed you the information. I think each of us as council members, whether you're on the finance committee or not, have a responsibility to understand the budget, to open the budget book and understand what's in the budget. No one's going to hand that to you. And placing someone on the BET is not going to solve that issue at all. It is our individual responsibility to ensure we understand the budget. And we should embrace the work of the BET. If we have any questions of the BET, they're willing, able, and open to addressing any questions we have. I do encourage more meetings with the BET and more interaction with the BET. But to create a structure where we're moving quote unquote power from the BET, or creating a structure where the BET's work and due diligence will be undermined by the council in some way, I think we're creating a situation that's going to have a negative impact for several years to come. We need to value the work of the BET.
Mr. Wiggins.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think this what's presented here is us saying that they're not doing a good job. I don't think that's what this is saying. I think it's saying that, to everyone's point earlier, this is a heavy load that we have being councilmen and women, right? People don't understand. On top of being here since 7:30, it's almost 10 o'clock. We have families, we have kids, we have other things that's going on in our life. But Greg, and I wouldn't expect you to understand what I meant, right? Because yeah, we can ask questions, right? You have to have knowledge about something to ask a question. You got to know the right questions to ask. And because you being a finance guy and been on the BET, I don't expect you to understand that. No one just get information from anywhere, right? You have to know the right questions to ask. And I think it's in your ignorance to even say something like that. But I really think this is an opportunity for us to, council members to have someone to be our heir in those rooms. I think it's extremely important. And what I mean by Mr. Mark is, you being in Jim as well, in Jim, if I'm not mistaken, he agreed with me. Right? We had this conversation that we could have had more conversations and we could have, informed the council more because you guys are knowledgeable about this. So once again, I think this is just an opportunity for us as councilmen and women, and to Nikki's point, this is going to be something that's going to outlive us, hopefully, if it's passed. And what Nikki said, Jim, I feel like you kind of ran right into it about the individuals that's on the council now. That's on the BET now. You name individuals. That might not look like that 10 years from now. We're going to have another mayor, right? That might not look like that. So it's important for us to have someone on there, right? Even if we might not all be able to engage in a way that's Greg saying about, oh, you can ask a question, show up. We might not all be able to do that. So if someone's going to be able to come to the council and give their thoughts and their opinions on what they've heard in the BET, I think that's a good thing.
Can I just I agree with you. And I think we had a conversation earlier, and that's what I was saying to you. I said that the only way that we all learn is to ask questions like Greg says. There's no stupid questions, okay? Just if you don't understand it, say, I don't understand it. This is mystery to me. But I think that, and maybe Greg and I have failed you guys by not being able to explain these things, but unless somebody says, Jim, I don't understand any of this, I assume that you guys know it, that maybe you've been through this before and it's knowledge that you picked up. But I think each one of us, and my point to you before was, each one of us has to really try to educate ourselves by going to these meetings. We can't have one person go and come back and say, this is what happened. And everybody will understand it just like that. But that's all.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I think we agree.
Ms. Nadolski Ekner.
So I think that the point that I want to make here is a little bit different, which is that, and we'll talk about this more maybe in relation to some of the other proposals, but at the end of the day, I believe deeply that the buck should stop with elected officials. It is an accountability issue. It is an issue for voters to know who is responsible. And it's ultimately why the entire, BET concept for me is one that I find challenging. In particular, in this instance, part of what I like about this proposal is that, and why I feel strongly about being a voting position, which again is, is or is not, will not be what comes back from the commission. But for me, I certainly push the commission to consider this, is that I understand the budget. I read the line item books. I can do this. I've done this for years. It is not enough for the council to read things. The council needs to be able to impact them. That is the difference. It is should be our responsibility to help craft a budget for this city. And if we are spending all of our time reading the budget books and can do nothing about them, and I personally, to be clear, I don't think that I as an elected official need to go and ask somebody else to do something for me, right? The whole point of being an elected official is to have the authority to vote for the change, to try to make something happen. I don't think that it is a good setup in the long run for a city when you're elected official, when your advice to your elected officials is that you should, go and advocate to an unelected person. In my mind, that flips the power structure backwards. It takes the accountability away from the voters. So, for all those reasons, I think that this is a way, again, of moving us towards a system that increases our accountability and that, again, responds to what we hear from our constituents. They want to know that we are doing what they want to do, and they get real tired of the answer that we don't have the authority to do that.
One last word, is we do have the authority. We are the ones that set the spending limit, okay? I hear constantly about the BET cutting the budget. BET cuts the budget, and I gave you a prime example of how the BET cuts the budget. That doesn't arbitrarily cut a budget or line items out, okay? And I think that what we were trying to say is that there are experts that we rely on, but we set the cap. We tell them this is the maximum we want to spend. And when we set that cap, we should be the ones that should be working on that budget and know the ins and outs of it. And if we think that there's something in there that we really need, then it's going to be in there. And we can justify that to BET and to our CFO. And if it fits into the criteria, if the city can afford it, and it's not going to affect our credit rating, and it's not going to affect our rainy day fund to an extent, yes, it'll be in there. CFO doesn't cut things because he thinks it's frivolous. He cuts things if we cannot afford it, or if it's going to have an adverse effect on something else. And that's why we can't start to twitch and tinker with the BET. Can we make it better? Yeah, we can. If we all work the way I've explained that we should be working, I think we'll have a much better system, a much cleaner system. And when your constituents come to you, you can explain exactly how it works. Okay? Every time I've gone to the 6th taxing district and explained to them how the budget, how their taxes went up last year, and everybody was satisfied with it. I went to the East Norwalk or the West Norwalk Property Owners Association, explained it again to them, and they're all satisfied with it. Okay, so if you can't explain it to them, or if they're dissatisfied with the explanations that you're getting, talk to Greg, talk to me, talk to anybody else, and have them come and talk to them.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't think my problem is explaining how the BET works. I'm sorry, just to be very clear,
No,
I
you
do not
said
have a
it all
problem
that.
explaining how the BET works. And I do have a problem with decisions the BET has made. We've talked about a number of them. We could talk about the decision to zero out the school budget a few years ago. We could talk about so my point is that, again, we don't need to rehash this. We've literally spent hours going back and forth on this. My point is that there's a legitimate difference of opinion here. It has to do with the perspective on what the appropriate power should be of this body. So we will move on. It is late. We have voters, anyone who'd like to hear this conversation can listen to the many hours of this. And I think
Lastly, because I don't want to rehash it. Jim, I hear you. Greg, I hear you. And I understand you're protective of the BET because of the time that you've served on there and you know the hard work that they do. I mean, it really is, you know, the hard work that they do. But as Ms. Eichner said, we elect them, right? And we should have some authority, not to tell them what they're doing wrong, but to be at the table so that we can move through this process differently than we have been. And that's not a bad remark or a saying that, Greg, you haven't said or done enough, or that you, Jim, because of your experience, you haven't shared enough. That is not what we're saying. We're saying that we feel as council, we should have a better relationship. We're trying to form better communication between the BET and the council, particularly during our budget process. It makes no sense to me, in my mind, that we get a book that the meetings that are going on for months between the BET and different departments. And Jim, you and I have talked about what we can do as council presidents and leaders of different committees, how we can get more involved in that process. But I think that this is a much needed position. And it can change the dynamic of this whole budget process. I don't want to rehash that. And to talk about capacity, Johan Lopez is in finance, right? He is qualified. He has some financial background. I don't know if he would want to do that, but I'm just saying, you're talking about folks around the table. There could be others that have that. And I don't see Miss Edie and that's not saying that you want to do that. But that's what we're saying. This is not an attack on the BET. We know their role and we respect their role, and we're not there to tell them what they're doing wrong. We want a voice at the table in real time particularly during the budget process. Whether they have a voting right or not is something that we will discuss. But I think it's imperative, if we're going to change the dynamic and how this council goes through this budget process every year. And that is part of the goal, in changing that relationship. And then to say to us, well, just go to a meeting. We're going before them, but we need to be beside them in a more collaborative partnership. I think that's what this is about. It's not about taking any power or authority away from them.
Yeah, I'd like to call the vote. Let's do roll call.
Mr. Burnett.
Can I request for clarification specifically now, which item are we voting on?
And
It's item 10.
Item 10D? Oh, 10, item
Yeah,
10.
Yeah. 737-1A2. 3.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Greg. You're unmuted, but
Can you hear me now?
yes,
Just for clarification, it says, please consider. So that this is not saying that we are going to, we're just going to consider. Is that correct?
it's a recommendation.
it's a
yes.
recommendation. And they all are. Everything is a recommendation.
And it does not specifically say whether the person would be a voting member or not. That is also correct?
Correct, either or.
My vote is yes, as the wording is currently stated.
Mr. Goldstein,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez.
Yes.
Ms. Najolski Eichner,
Yes.
Ms. Smith. Yes. Ms. Ayers.
Yes.
Mr. Seed,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins.
Yes.
Ms. Young,
Yes.
Ms. Edie,
Yes.
Ms. Winterstrand,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton,
Yes.
Mr. Frere,
No,
Ms. Shanahan.
No, I think this is it's confusing. If it said that it was just a non-voting, I'd vote yes. If it says voting, I say no. So I'm just recording that as a asterisk.
So the item passes. We have 2 no's.
Okay, so let's move on. We're going to move 14, 15, and 16 together. Chapter 10:5, please consider establishing 2 separate limits on total appropriations for the general government of the Board of Education, cap provision. Chapter 7:10-6, A-B, please consider requiring the mayor and board to submit line item budgets compliant with the cap provision. Chapter 7:10-6C, please consider requiring the mayor or designee to submit a revised estimated mill rate aligned with the cap provision by March 21st. There's been a lot of discussion about this in our workshops, and so I think we don't have to rehash everything. But I will turn it over to Ms. Najolski Eichner. These were your amendments.
I will be extremely succinct. Again, there's hours of video. If you want to learn more. The core provision here is really 15, which is, the goal is getting a cap compliant budget from both the mayor and the Board of Ed by the mid-March-ish date, so that everyone in the city can have clarity as to the implications for the budget cap on all city departments' budgets. And this is intended, to address confusions that have arisen where there's a budget that is put forward in January that has numbers for spending that is much higher than the cap. And then there is no actual requirement at this moment in time to have a budget that complies with the cap until much later in the process. So the goal here is to sort of get that clarity. In order to do that, we need to have 2 separate caps, one for general government and one for the Board of Ed, because otherwise there is no cap that the Board of Ed can do their budget in compliance with. If there's only a single cap, then there's no clarity. Actually, it's true for either side. No one can sort of say what their budget must comply with unless there's a cap specific to that section of the budget. And then the last part of that is actually, again, a consistent practice that our CFO has currently maintained of constantly providing updated mill rates, but this would just put into the charter the expectation that by that mid-March date, there would be mill rates put forward at the same time as the budget proposals that comply with the cap. So again, everyone has full transparency of information by the mid-March deadline.
Again, we've had a great deal of discussion about it. I would just like to voice, I am not going to support these, not because I don't think we necessarily want to look at things differently, but I think that, after the Charter Revision Commission has, done so many months of work, and these amendments came so late in the process, I feel that, I would have liked for us to approach it in a different way, where there was more public discussion, more, I don't know, I think these kind of changes deserve more of a study. Just more of a study. And so I'm open to changes, but I just feel that it's too much change close to the end of the race. So that's just my perspective. Yes, Ms. Ayers.
Actually, Ann was before.
Oh, okay. Ms. Winterstrand.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm gonna lower my hand. Yeah, I just wanted to say, as the language is written, we're asking the Charter Revision Committee to please consider these amendments. And I feel that with that provision in the language, I can support this. I have some concerns. I've been very torn on this and I've listened very closely and consulted with many of you on this. My concern is that this could create more complexity, that this is going to be difficult to explain to constituents. I'm not sure if it will fully solve the core issue that Councilperson Najolski-Eichner has defined as sort of the June surprise that we would like to try to avoid. I'm very committed to the process of changing the dynamic, being more collaborative, making sure that there's more accountability earlier in the process. And for that reason, I'm going to support that the commission consider these amendments. And I want to thank Ms. Najolski-Eichner for that.
So me and Nora have, a council person, have spoken about this, and I said early on, again, not looking at the current people who are in the spots, but stepping back and looking at a broader position. The BOE is a department, or NPS is a department of the city. And so identifying them in this way makes me uneasy because we are setting precedents that they are higher up than all the other departments. And I have issues with that. But I have to say thank you to Nora for doing this work. We all witnessed the problem that we just went through, and Nora put pen to paper to offer up a solution. We might not all agree that this is the perfect solution, but at least we got something to work from. And something to work from is better than nothing at all. That's my personal opinion. But I think in the consideration, and this is directly to the charter revision, in your consideration of these amendments, if they are passed as recommendations to you on tonight, I would ask that you really consider what the precedent would be in identifying the Board of Ed, setting them apart from the rest of the city departments. We got to do something, but I don't know what that something is. And I don't know, other than getting us information earlier, which is helpful, as we're making decisions, and forces the BOE to share information earlier. I don't know what the end results will be 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Again, stepping back and not looking at the current actors. Because some of this is subjective to the person who is implementing the policy. Because we always did not have this contention. So that is my apprehensiveness to vote for these 3 amendments.
Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burnett,
No.
Mr. Goldstein,
No.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Ms. Najolski-Eichner,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
No.
Ms. Ayers,
Pass.
Mr. Seed,
Good.
yes,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins,
Yes.
Ms. Young,
Yes.
Ms. Edie,
Yes.
Ms. Winterstrand,
Yes.
Ms. Dunn. Oh, sorry. Mr. Sutton,
No.
it's late. Mr. Fair,
No.
Ms. Shanahan,
No.
Ms. Ayers,
Abstain.
so we have 1 abstention, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 nays and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yeas. The item passes.
Okay, it passes. And let's move on to item 19, chapter 7, 10-7B, please consider granting the council authority to override BET action on the cap provisions by a 2/3 vote, including the ability to adjust line items of the impacted general government provisions. B, including a limitation on council authority not to exceed 1.5% of the total city-side operating budget as originally proposed by the Board of Estimate and Taxation.
Can I make a suggestion that I think 21 goes with this?
Okay, and 21, chapter 7, 10-8C, please consider prohibiting any BET action to modify the final budget as approved by the council.
Barbara.
Yes.
Nora, wanted to
Yeah,
take
go
this.
ahead.
Yes, so, again, to be clear about what we're changing here, so the council already has the ability to override the BET by 2/3 vote. But that is limited to, essentially limited to an override if the BET increases over. So this then expands the council's existing override authority to be override authority, to go up or down, to modify or amend, and to, again, to do so in a way that specifies which line items the council is seeking to amend. Because again, at the moment, we have this sort of farcical situation where the council can make an amendment but can't say to the BT what to do with it, which at the end of the day, ultimately kind of causes the BT to have to play a guessing game as to what the council wants, and at the end of the day, again, does not leave the ultimate authority with the elected body. So, you know, there's, I think, a number of fail safes here. It's a 2/3 vote, which is very high margin. Councilmember Lopez had proposed that we include a cap on this authority so that the council can only make changes equivalent to 1.5% of the operating budget, which again limits the scope of what the changes the council can make here. And realistically, given this body's history, the tendency of this town, these are likely to be relatively small corrections in most instances where, for whatever reason, excuse me, I'm talking too much. We think that the BET has gotten it wrong one way or the other, up or down. And the language in 21 in the recommendation maybe is a little stronger than necessary. The point is not that the BET cannot make any changes as necessary over the year goes along, but rather that the BET must implement the changes made by the council in their 2/3 override. Again, we have rehashed this at enormous length. Folks should check out the workshops for several hours. So I will pause there.
Go ahead, Mr. Lopez.
So I was gonna say, so for me, the goal is always to work collaboratively with the city CFO, city's finance department, the BET. But in those moments where there's scenarios that priorities differ in some particular area, this is setting a percentage cap on the city side that the council is allowed to actually amend is the responsible way to allow the council more say and be a bit more responsive to a particular community need while still respecting the institutional role that the BET plays. And so the 1.5 wasn't pulled out of thin air. It's based on general municipal finance framework, state oversight, governmental accounting, and let's say auditing standards. So I think that legislative authority or more legislative authority and fiscal discipline or financial discipline can in fact coexist. And so we do have to find a way to be more responsive to the needs of residents. And I think we should have more say. So that was my reasoning behind setting this cap, because without the cap, I think it would potentially cause a lot of problems. So that's my reasoning between setting the 1.5. Doesn't have to be 1.5. I thought that was just a baseline a reasonable baseline we could start with to have a conversation as to should we increase it, lessen it, or not have it all together. So that's it.
Yeah, man, I just want to add to that. I mean, I think, in discussions that we had, I think some of us would be comfortable with a little bit lower, more like 1%. What I'm wondering, can we, if everyone would be amenable, instead of just having a hard 1.5%, say, 1 to 1.5% increase?
Sure, I mean,
Would
this
we
is a
be
recommendation.
comfortable with that?
Yeah, it's still a huge number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can, President?
Yes.
I think we did have conversation to talk about that, and I
Mhm.
think we had we had consensus or more buy-in at the 1%.
That's what I
Right.
thought
We
too.
can also establish a recommended range
Range.
Mhm.
as well.
So I think if we can do that, that 1% is.
Change it to, change it to 1%.
1%.
Change it to 1%. And keeping in mind, these are just, we're asking them to look
Right.
at it. Because, I think it's really important that we have, a really solid public discussion of the Charter Commission to look at that. I mean, it is a 2/3 vote. It is a 2/3 majority vote, and does not come easily. So I think it's something that, based on some of the experiences that we have had, making recommendations that, were reduced, that, 2%, cap that for the Board of Ed that we approved, that was zeroed out. That was, I would have liked to have had something to say about that, even if it didn't pass the council, right? I would have liked to have had something to say about it, yes.
I really like this, and I think along with other recommendations that we put up, with having a representative from the council on the BET, I think there's a lot of fail safes here, and I think having that representative on the BET that's going to be able to come back, let us understand why the BET made that decision is one that I think the council and councils in the future are going to be able to make really informed decisions. And I just want to really thank the council for all of the work that we did tonight. Hopefully this is my last time speaking. But I really think a lot of these amendments, we put together a lot of hard work. And I think that, I hope that we sent the message to our constituents that we really heard them. That we really want to deliver inclusive and transparent government. And I think that we have, and I'm really proud of the work that we did tonight. It's probably one of my favorite times on the council so far. So I just want to thank everybody for everything you guys did.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a friendly amendment.
Okay.
To take 1%, if you're okay with that. Take 1%, by all means.
Okay, 1%. All right, let's call roll call vote. Mr. Burnett.
No.
Mr. Goldstein,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Ms. Najolski Eichner,
Aye.
Ms. Smith. Yes. Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Seed,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins.
Yes.
Ms. Young,
Yes.
Ms. Edie,
Yes.
Ms. Winterstrand,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton,
Yes.
Mr. Freer,
No.
Ms. Shanahan,
No.
10-3. It passes. And let me just finish the resolution.
That math doesn't add up.
No.
Are we missing, are we missing a person?
Do we miss?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, it's 11. I apologize.
No, it's fine, I was like, wait, I had 14 votes, so.
11.
11-3.
Yeah,
All right.
that's my bedtime.
And then, I'm sorry, do we need to? get people to do that?
Yes,
Do we need to do that?
yes, this item, this one.
We gotta go back to something.
I just need to know who voted yes and no. There's 8 yays and 6 nays. And for this item,
Oh, for minority party.
Minority party
Yes.
representation, which wasn't done by a roll.
yes,
Okay.
so we do that.
So, yeah.
So I just need to know who voted no. Or yes.
Which one do you want to count? The no's?
No, because it's easier, it's 6.
For minority, we're going back to minority party representation.
Yeah.
We did
The
not do a
record
roll
was
call.
not
Record
clear, so we're just clearing up the record. We're not taking a new vote.
Right,
Okay.
so 6 people voted no.
I was one of them,
Josh,
so.
who else?
I voted no. Shanahan.
Shanahan, Freyer. I have Goldstein, Shanahan, Freyer,
Myself.
Lopez. I need 2 more.
Doug?
Which one was that?
This is
Minority
the,
party.
This one?
Voted no.
yeah,
It passed, but I just want to know for the record.
you voted yes.
You just
Just we didn't take a roll.
Was Mr. Burnett a no on that?
Greg, did you vote for the minority party?
Yeah, this one.
I voted no.
Okay, so we have,
just
I have
accounting for the record.
Goldstein, Shanahan, Frere, Lopez, and Burnett.
I gotta know.
And Sutton.
And Sutton. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
there we
I
go.
appreciate that.
We cleaned it
Thank
up.
you.
Okay, let me finish the resolution. Okay.
Thank you.
Be it further resolved that the Common Council further recommends acceptance of such Scrivener's edits as noted in the file copy of recommendations of the Common Council approved on July 22nd, 2025, and transmitted to the town clerk and city clerk on July, it will be on the 23rd.
Mhm.
There's a little typo in here. Be it further resolved that the council authorizes the corporation council to the council, the town, and the corporate, and wait. Authorizes the corporation council and to the council?
Council to the
Help me out here.
council.
Council,
Council to the
council, okay, and council to the council, to continue, sorry, it's late. To review the document for errata and other non-substantive editorial revisions subject to the approval of the council, approved at a regular, not special, meeting of the Common Council, July 22nd, 2025.
You might say charter.
Charter council and council to the council. We'll fix that.
What you gonna look like, say?
Okay, okay. So now we're gonna vote on the whole thing. Now we gotta just vote on, right? We gotta vote on the whole thing. Yes, we gotta vote on the whole thing.
Yeah, I guess.
Right,
so.
okay.
Right.
Okay, so,
Wait a minute.
now how do we do that? We can't really because we
No, I
have,
don't
no,
think
we
we need
can't.
to vote on the
We
whole thing.
can't
We
because,
voted on
okay,
the
whatever.
recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no-
All right, and you'd like
Vote
to
on the whole
say,
thing happens later.
okay, before we adjourn.
If I may, I just want to tell you, well, number one, I want to tell you, I think that the councilman was absolutely right. This was a terrific meeting. I was listening very intently, but I was texting with a member of another legislative body that just went through a horrible, horrible series of meetings to say you can actually have good meetings in a council. So I want to point out that this was terrific, and the whole series of meetings have been really great. Let me just explain where we are in the process, if I may, Madam
Please.
President, and I won't take a lot of time. And that is, this will be going, I'll be filing these documents tomorrow. I'll send clean versions of this resolution to the leadership. I'll send it to the other sponsors who are involved to take a look at, make sure that I've captured any changes that we made this evening. And this will go to the clerks tomorrow, to the city clerk and to the town clerk. And then it'll go to the Charter Revision Commission. We're trying to set up meetings. I talked to Chair Fairbairn today for July 29th and July 30th and August 5th. He's not available on the 11th, which means if we get it done in those 3 meetings, that's going to be hard. But if we do and don't have any other need for meetings, that we'll be ready to send it back to you. So you could probably act upon it at your August 12th meeting. And that would be the objective if we can do that. What they can do is very limited. They can only address the 21 items that are on your list. 21 items on your list. And most of them are relatively easy to deal with, but it's going to require kind of a mediated process because we have some language, we don't have a lot of language. So we're going to have to start drafting language the next meeting. So I'm looking at, I know the president has a lot of other things that she is doing right now. So I'm looking at the majority leader as well. And I would say to the other members who have interests in some of these provisions, that the next meeting, which hopefully will be on the 29th of the month, is the conferral meeting. And that's where the leadership confers with the commission and goes through each of the items that are on this list. I will try between now and then to start drafting language so that we can be in a place where they can move and get this done in 1 to 3 meetings. The importance of the conferral and then the mediation is to make sure that we draft language that is clear and simple and unambiguous to the point the Corporation Council was making, but also that you can support when it comes back to you, because you can only vote up or down on the language. We can't amend the language when it comes back to this body. So it's really important that as we are there, that the leadership we will be meeting with and whoever else is attending that meeting to try to hammer out the language, to make sure the language works You can vote against it, but you can't amend it. And so I just wanted to emphasize that point. It's a strange legislative procedure. That's the way the charter provision process works. It's not written down anywhere. But that's the way it works. We can only vote up or down in whole or in part on each of the proposals that are made. So that's where we are. And we'll certainly talk to the city clerk to make sure she gets informational notices out to everybody about when these meetings are going to be. And I encourage as many people to attend as possible during that process so that we can really hammer out the language. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Mednick.
And Attorney Mendick, thank you so much for your availability, for answering all my questions, providing documentation to answer a lot of the questions that I had. So I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. And it's been a real honor. I mean, I've been through this process in this town for 4 years, and I've really come to have great admiration for the town. But I do want to correct something the mayor said tonight, if I may. At the Oyster Festival on the 6th of September, he did not mention that my band is playing in the beer tent. So that is a great Norwalk event. Just want to point out for the record. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything that you have walked us through here. We really appreciate it. And I will call for, okay. There's good. It's all in favor. All right. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Josh.